Hey yo! Welcome to another brand new episode of Undisputed Nerds. I am one of your co-hosts, Zane Taicho, aka Zane. Zane, that's me. Who?
You changed your name to Zane.
Zane. As always, I'm joined by my fantastic co-host, the Gentlemanly Gamer.
Hello, everyone in Radioland. How are we all? Zane. Zane. Yes. How are you, Zane? How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How about yourself? How are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm hyped up on energy drinks at the moment. So as I said to you before we started, I'm probably going to have a massive crash at some point. Let's hope it's after the podcast, folks. But no, I'm doing well. It's the weekend as we record this. So I'm in a good mood on the weekend. Thank God we don't record this on a Sunday night.
Oh no. We are live on YouTube every Friday.
We are. That is true.
Come subscribe. This is where we like to talk about comics and stuff.
But we also appreciate if you downloaded it and you listen to it on a Monday or during the week. Let's just also add that in there.
Yeah, we're giving you that Friday energy on a Monday.
Exactly. We're giving you that Friday feeling of insanity on a Monday.
Lightning captured in a bottle.
2 getting older married men slowly losing their minds, isolated in rooms together. Not together, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
We're sharing the pain. Have you had a good week, Zane?
Yeah, it's been not too bad. Catching up on some reading. I don't know if you've seen this actually. There was a issue of Spider-Man where it was called Mary Jane and Black Cat.
No, I haven't. Can we just draw behind the curtain a little bit here on the Undisputed Nerds podcast? Can I just say I'm like actually slightly hurt that you remember reading a comic this week about Spider-Man, but you can't remember a conversation that you and I had on Wednesday about your other podcast plug at Undisputed Anime. Am I so insignificant in your life, Zane Taicho, that you can't even bother to remember a conversation we had the day before yesterday?
Well, I mean, it was over text, so that's slightly different.
Oh,
there was no pictures, was there?
Right, because comics is all speech out loud.
Exactly. It just has a bit of colour with it as well.
Okay. Oh, are you saying I'm super pasty?
I'm just saying dark mode on a text message is a complete contrast to comics, all right?
A lot of people have called me very dark, but it's normally my heart. But that's fine. Thanks, Zane. I appreciate that. No, it's fine. I just wanted to, give you a cheap plug for the other podcast and also express my deep, deep hurt live on the stream.
Oh,
that's good.
How about you? How's things?
Oh, it's been a marvelous week. It's been unbelievable. I mean, honestly, it's been full of everything that I've wanted in life. I can't say too much, but let's just say that a certain Hollywood actor's been in touch, and he's a big fan of the show and the recurring articles that we keep constantly talking about. And let's just say he may have given me a big part in one of his upcoming movies. So watch the space, folks. I'm not going to say too much. I'm not going to say too much right now, but there's the hook for future Undisputed Nerds episodes. So I'm just gonna put it out there. But no, it's been a fine week. I'd say fine. It's just been one of those weeks, hasn't it? Like nothing's different. It's just been one of those.
Yeah.
There was an episode of the Book of Boba Fett, which we'll do a full series review for Boba next week, or Bubba, depending on if you're Zane. That will be next week on the show. We'll do a full review of that. But what are we doing this week, Zane? What's coming up this week?
This week, in preparation for the end of Boba Fett, we thought let's look back. Let's look back at all the Star Wars movies and let's rank them from best to worst.
Yes, it could be a foolhardy errand. However, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. And I'm now realizing as well that the Star Wars movies include Solo and it also includes Rogue One. So it's even more movies than I remembered.
I had to double check when making the title and stuff for this because I was like, there's 9 movies. And I was like, no,
there's not.
There isn't.
It's not. Wait, it's so just for clarity before we get onto, because we're going to, before we do all that, we'll do our usual tips and bits and a bit of the old Nicky Cage. But Is it including the anime movies as well, like the animated movies? Like, thank God for that. Jeez, I was worried for a minute. Then I was like, I know immediately what's going into the F category. Clone Wars gets right down there.
Did they
Not
have
series, the movie?
Did that have a theatrical release?
Yes, I watched it at the movies.
Did it? Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I thought it was straight to DVD.
No, it was a movie. Well, if we're talking about the same one where they're on like Tatooine and they go to like, you know what? Let's talk about this in the actual. Yeah, we'll come to that later. So anyway, it's time at the beginning of the show to go with that now regularly recurring segment from friend of the show, Nicolas Cage, who obviously listens every week. And it's time to ask, what is all the rage with Nicolas Cage?
I'm a policeman. See my badge?
Is that the one we're going to use for it now?
I don't know. I haven't updated it for a while.
I wasn't sure if you were going to do that one or the bees. I still love the bees.
I thought about the bees. I'm like, it's there, looking at me.
All right. So, okay, this is brace yourself for this, Zane. So if you were feeling down, if anyone's going to work on a Monday, just think of what this man's life is like to have this happen to him. Okay, so this is a bit of old news. So Nick's been a bit quiet at the moment because he's just filming. He's filming for Dracula, basically. He's being Dracula in that film Renhold. So he's doing that. But yeah, this happened to him in 2011, and I've never heard this before. So this is amazing. So it might be a revelation to some people. But here's a little Nicolas Cage fact that he let us know in one of his interviews back in 2011. Discussing his home invasion thriller Trespass in 2011, Cage shared with reporters that he was once victimized by someone who had broken into his Orange County home. The direct quote from Cage is, "I opened my eyes." I'm not going to do the accent, although I did practice it a bit beforehand with Zane, but I'm not going to do it. "I opened my eyes and there was a naked man wearing my leather jacket eating a fudgesicle in the front of my bed. What? I know it sounds funny, but it was horrifying." Cage then said he discussed various topics with the man until the police eventually arrived at his home and arrested him.
Wow.
Exactly. Let's just let that sit in for a while. That is a direct quote. "I opened my eyes and there was a naked man wearing my leather jacket eating a fudgesicle in front of my bed." Why he has to like put in the point about the fudgesicle, I don't know. But I love it. Apparently he was terrified, and the other bit that I love is the fact that he talked to the guy until the police turned up.
That's crazy. It reminds me, I don't know if you ever heard the story about the guy who broke into Buckingham Palace and spoke to the Queen.
Yes, I have. I did hear. Yeah, I did hear about that. Yes. But yes,
obviously not to the same levels of wearing a leather jacket and eating a popsicle.
A fudgesicle. It's an American. It's American treat. American dessert treat. It's kind of like an ice lolly, but they call it a fudgesicle. Yeah, it's. It's I'm just looking through. So basically, guys, when Nicolas Cage news is a bit quiet, I'm going to go back to this because I found a site that basically has 9 bizarre facts about Nicolas Cage, and I've just skimmed through some of the other facts, and oh Nelly, there's some good ones coming up. So yes, there we go. That is today's All the Rage with Nicolas Cage. He was once the victim of a home invasion where the guy stood over him naked, wearing his leather jacket and eating a fudgesicle, which he then decided to have a conversation with. I wonder if he decided to talk about Vampire's Kiss, that movie where he thinks he's becoming a vampire. There you go. Did you enjoy this week's Nick Cage news, Zane?
Absolutely, yeah. It's the more I learn about him, the more I learn.
The more you learn about him, the more you grow as a person.
Yeah, that's probably where I was going with it. Yeah.
Let's hope so. All right, so moving on then, we've got we're doing tips and bits this week, guys. There's been a wide array of news from all over the shop. I'm gonna try and segment them into some Star Wars, some DC, and then some Marvel. Mix it up a little bit. So we'll start off with a bit of Star Wars news. So Obi-Wan is coming out hopefully this year on Disney Plus, as long as it doesn't get delayed. And it should be around May the 4th, surprisingly. So The expectation is that that's when Obi-Wan is going to premiere on Disney Plus on May the 4th. However, they are apparently releasing something of a prequel/sequel comic book to that series the week before the show. So,
is this being published by Marvel?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So, looks like we're going to kind of extend out a little bit of the story about what happened to Ewan McGregor to make him look like Alec Guinness. And yeah, I'm fascinated by this. I think I wonder what the thing that's kind of confusing me about this series is that it was never established in the period between 3 and 4 if he ever went off world or if he just stayed on Tatooine the entire time. Because I know that they're bringing in Hayden Christensen to be Darth Vader in the series, and they're obviously going to do, I think they're going to do flashbacks, they did say as well. So we'll see, I think, the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin as to why they were friends and why it was actually more heartbreaking than just, Hayden Woodyson on screen, just hamming it up.
Or Anakin.
I just heard it and I just got it. Brilliant.
Mannequin Skywalker.
Mannequin Skywalker. That's what I was looking for.
That's what you called it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, but no, I'm excited for this. I mean, I don't need to ask if you're excited for the Obi-Wan series. I already know you are. Will you be reading the comic book as well? The kind of prequel sequel comic?
Possibly. Like, I heard great things about Marvel's version of Vader. I heard it's a great series that I haven't read.
It's a very good series. Yes, I have read it.
I've seen some panels recently where you see the darkness inside of Vader and like his limbs are blue because obviously they can't fill it with.
Yep.
Yeah. And that looks amazing. I was like, wow, that looks incredible. So yeah, it sounds like great things.
Yeah, the thing I really like about the extended stuff that they've done with because I have to be perfectly blunt, I'm very bored of that time period as far as Star Wars is concerned. Like between 3 and 4, like it was this big mystery, like when the first films came out, and then I got really bored because they filled it with a lot of stuff, and we've really, really gone deep dive into that series, period, especially with series like Rebels and Clone Wars and stuff. But they've done such a great job of making Vader a proper badass, and showing why everyone is genuinely terrified of him. There's so spoilers alerts for old games and films that you probably should have watched or played already. But the end of Rogue One, which I'm sure we'll talk about later on, just exhibits how much of a badass Vader is. The end of Fallen Order, Jedi Knight Fallen Order. If you haven't played that, spoiler, Vader turns up at the end of it and just wrecks S up. It is amazing. And I didn't like Fallen Order as a game. I didn't enjoy it because I felt like it was Dark Souls with a Star Wars skin plastered on top. I'm going to get comments. But that ending made the entire game worth playing for me because I was like, this is incredible. I love Darth Vader. So yeah, I'm excited. We'll see what they do with him in the series. But yeah, it's going to be a good one. Can't wait for May 4th. Can't wait. So moving on to some DC news now. I know that you were a fan. You were a fan of this, and I'm not sure if you were after the 3rd season, but Titans season 4 is coming. Titans season 4 is on the way. And they have announced, so HBO Max, who are now doing it, they have announced that Joseph Morgan will be playing Sebastian Blood, aka Brother Blood.
Yes, I had seen this. Oh yeah, what were you going to say? Sorry.
I was going to say. So they've also cast Franca Potente, and I can't pronounce that surname. Lisa Ambalovnar, I think. And Potente is going to play May Bennett, aka Mother Mayhem. Is this going to be like a the other lady is going to be Jinx, because I'm not going to try and say that name again and sacrifice myself to the nerd gods. If they're bringing back Brother Bloods, do you think this is going to move back to a Trigon era kind of thing?
Potentially. Here's the hot take with the last season. They didn't do an awful lot with Raven, considering she was like the focal point of season 1. Season 3, she has a minor role in comparison to everything else that was going on. So yeah, I guess it could be speculation wise. But the guy who's playing Brother Blood is a great actor. Like, I remember him from Vampire Diaries, which makes me sound like
yeah.
You
can't see, guys, but his hair is actually braided into pigtails behind him. So
Yeah, I'm going straight onto Tumblr after this too.
I can tell. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got his Hello Kitty backpack already. He's good to go. I really enjoyed the first 2 seasons of Titan. I thought Titans, they were great. I haven't seen all of season 3 yet because, like you, I found it very hard to get through. Like it's a slog, man. It's tough. Yeah. It's not as there's something missing that the first 2 seasons had, where there was like, this is cool, man. Like, this is good, and it's a shame. It's a shame. So. But I guess, maybe returning to kind of some of its roots and doing Trigon and the Raven relationship again might work. So yeah. I'm hopeful for it. I'm hopeful. So moving on, sticking with DC.
Ooh.
Now, listen, we can't do a DC article, without talking about your favorite actor in the whole world, Ben Affleck.
I mean, what can I say?
I think you know what's coming. This has been one of the hot scoops this week. Ezra Miller.
Yes.
The man I hate as Flash. He so basically Ben Affleck had an interview with Variety this week, talking about one of his upcoming projects that's happening. And somebody asked about Batman. And they were talking about his experiences as being Batman. And Affleck, I'm not going to do the whole quote, but Affleck basically said that his time working on The Flash, which we've talked about before, it was the best he's ever felt playing The Dark Knight. And he had a very negative experience shooting the Joss Whedon version of Justice League. And he reiterated that it was the last appearance on The Flash, the last time he's ever going to be Batman. Ezra Miller took a screenshot from that article, underlining one last time, and then wrote "ha ha 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 ha" in very Joker-esque font over it.
Yeah.
Now, the speculator, basically, I mean, we shouldn't be surprised that Ezra Miller is courting controversy, because let's face it, he's a chokeslam specialist. And a monster, and yeah, but there were a couple of things that came from that. Is it him basically trolling Affleck to say there's no way this is the last time you're ever playing Batman, or because it's a Joker-esque kind of font, is he implying that maybe Affleck's going to take a darker turn and maybe become the Joker who laughs, maybe, or the Batman who laughs, even? Sorry.
Interesting
thoughts, Zane. Give us what you got.
So the most how do I explain this? The rumor with the most momentum around it at the moment about this is that maybe Affleck will get to make the Batman movie that he was originally going to direct. I think maybe even write.
He did. He co-wrote it with whoever. It wasn't with Matt Reeves. Whoever was. I can't remember, but yes, you're right. He did write it.
David Goyer.
Was it with David Goyer? I wasn't sure. I thought you were going to say AF for a minute. Then I was like, oh god, I hope not. Oh Jesus, God, no.
It's wild. Yeah,
maybe with David Goyer.
Yeah, the speculation is that that a deal could be struck for Affleck to make that Batman movie that he had originally gave concept to.
I wonder if they're hinging it on if The Flash is successful or not.
Or HBO Max. Like, it could be an original just for HBO Max.
Could be. I mean, we should point out, guys, we haven't done a Peacemaker conversation on this either on the show. That's because neither of us can get access to Peacemaker perfectly legally in this country at the moment. So, but I've heard nothing but really, really good things about Peacemaker, which is making me want to watch it very, very badly in a perfectly legal, absolutely above board, representable way. So until we can watch it perfectly legally above board representatively, we're probably not going to talk about Peacemaker, but we're aware how good it is. And hopefully, yeah, you're right. They could totally do a Batman mini series of like Affleck's universe, because we still have so many unanswered questions about that universe. Why, apparently his Robin was killed. Like, and it was Dick Grayson, wasn't it, that was killed by the Joker in that universe?
Yeah.
Like that.
Again, I don't even think that was even clarified. I think it may have been clarified in a Batman book. Like those encyclopedia books to tie in with the movies. But
yeah, the ones that Snyder wrote himself.
Took photos of everything.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, exactly. This is the underwear Batman was wearing. Sorry.
On the subject of Peacemaker, have you heard the rumors that James Gunn has been approached that he might do another series off another character in
Suicide? I did hear. Well, okay, yeah, that kills the next bit of news. Cool. Yes. Yes, Zane, how do you feel about James Gunn being approached to potentially do another DC series? I mean, there is a reason why I brought up Peacemaker. I was trying to perfectly segue it, but yeah, that's fine. Carry on. Go on. You're good.
It was all right.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm excited to
Slob Hopper Taicho coming in, stomping all over my segue,
stealing the tips and bits. Yeah,
Are you stealing my tips and bits?
Yeah, I think it's a cool idea. I do wonder who it will be, though.
It's going to have to be some off-the-wall character, isn't it, for like James Gunn to want to do it? It's going to have to be somebody really obscure. It's a shame that it's not Marvel, because you would think he'd do a great job with Stiltman. I'm trying to think who's wacky enough in.
So there's who survived. Probably a better question, because Ratcatcher 2 survived.
Oh, you mean from Suicide Squad specifically? I'm not thinking from Suicide Squad. I'm just thinking DC characters, because he'd be great. Like, I tell you what, he'd be really good at. So there's two people that come to mind immediately. Mr. Miracle, he'd be excellent doing a Mr. Miracle series. Just with like the trippy nature of how if he bases it on the one that I think it's by Tom King, the one that won the Eisner Award. Like, that is a trippy book where you're never quite sure if he's still under Darkseid's control or not. And it's like all very messed up in his head. Or now here's the one where you're going to go, yes, immediately. Yes. Picture James Gunn doing a series of Lobo.
Yeah, I could see that. Here's the thing with Lobo. I think.
Oh, here we go.
Too much. It's kind of the Deadpool paradox. It's kind of like, too much Deadpool can be annoying.
But we haven't even we've never seen Lobo on screen before. What are you talking about?
We have seen Lobo. He was in the Superman. Oh, what's it called? The TV show based on Superman's grandfather on Krypton. Here you go.
Zane. I love you like a brother, my friend. But like, do you realize what you just said? Yeah, you're right. We've seen so much of Lobo because he was in a Krypton TV series that was on Sci-Fi that barely anyone watched.
You said never.
Sorry. Okay, right. Sorry, you're right. You're correct. Okay, my apologies. Yeah, you're right. We might be oversaturating Lobo.
I'm not saying there's an oversaturation. I'm just saying, like, too much Lobo could be damaging to the character.
Marvel news, everyone. So, moving on. I'll let you guys write in and tell Zane how crazy he is. Oh, that's what he should do. He should take one of the characters from Suicide Squad, the terrible Suicide Squad movie, and make a series out of that. I would love to see a good show about El Diablo.
Captain Boomerang. If Captain Boomerang had his own show,
Captain Boomerang,
that would be mad.
Who else? Who else was in it? David Ayer. Make a show about David Ayer. That'd be interesting.
Katana.
Yeah, Katana possibly. I mean, honestly, I'd quite like to. I think if you put it in the right hands, we'll get comments for this as well. You could probably do something quite interesting with the Joker as far as the TV series is concerned. But that Joker, that specific Joker, that Jared Leto Joker, because there's a lot of interesting stuff that they explore there, especially the asylum stuff when he's corrupting Harley and all that kind of thing. That's genuinely very interesting. And like they did get the nature of his like changeability very good. Like when he kills that gangster in the in the nightclub scene and puts him in an impossible position where he's he's gonna die regardless. That was really good, but there's just not enough of him. I'd like to see more of that, just to see not a huge amount, but I don't know, Zane. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Who would you guys like to see James Gunn tackle on screen?
Here's the crazy thing though. We could all wish for him to do like amazing characters.
Oh my god, what am I talking about? Green Lantern. He should do a Green Lantern series.
Green Lantern, yeah, that would be cool. But knowing James Gunn, he'll be like Red Tornado. Give me Red Tornado.
That's true. Laugh, please. The Orange Lantern. Yeah. Anyway. Really moving on to Marvel news now. So we're gonna double bag this bit of Marvel news. So Tom Holland's been interviewed a lot about the potential of Spider-Man No Way Home being nominated for an Oscar. Yeah, it's from. So he was talking to Variety, saying it'd be a huge honor if the film got nominated. He then got asked if there was potential for him, Maguire, and Garfield to team up again. And he said it was one of those things. It was an idea for a long time and an idea that always seemed impossible. Could it happen? Of course it could happen. We've done it once before. Will it happen? I don't know. And then Tom Holland immediately then went to jump on the bandwagon with, I think you and I definitely are. I think everyone who has seen No Way Home definitely is, to say, this is a direct quote from him, I would love to see The Amazing Spider-Man 3. I think what was so wonderful was how Andrew was able to kind of make amends with the character and the studio to kind of win the general public back. That scene where he saved Zendaya, like the fan reaction in the theater was so spectacular. So should Sony decide to do that, they would have my full support, and obviously so would Andrew. You and I have been talking a lot since No Way Home about the idea that the way to actually do the Spider-Verse is not necessarily to focus on all the quirky characters, and we'll talk about that again in a little bit in the next bit of news, but to actually have different Spider-Men and different Spider-Man franchises. And why can't you have multiple dimensions with different Spider-Man? They've already done with the comics, where you've got the Ultimate Spider-Man running at the same time as the standard version. Hell, you did Superior Spider-Man, where you actually did the entire run of that. So I'm all for this. I'm pretty sure you are as well, aren't you?
Absolutely, yeah. And just to again give credit to that idea, currently in comics, you've got both Ben Reilly and Peter Parker in the same sort of Spider-Man series.
Exactly.
Like it is possible to juggle it. It's just studios tend to think this one track sort of, you know what I mean? Like
I think
Spider-Man is this like.
Yeah, I think that genuinely has. I think it feels like the attitude has changed a lot after No Way Home, because it did. I mean, No Way Home has just hit 1 billion worldwide. Which is, no matter how many ways you shake it, that's a phenomenal amount of money. And it has made them I think it has made, specifically Sony, I think it has made them sit up and realize and go, man, maybe we can get some more value out of these older franchises that we've already established. And there is a great deal to be said about how much nostalgia fuels money. And they poured a lot of nostalgia into that movie, and it's made a boatload of money. So I'm all for it. I really want to see Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man now again. It's the weirdest thing, because when you look at it subjectively compared to the other Spider-Man movies, Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 are two of the weakest of the entire franchise. I know you like the first one a lot. I know you do like the first one a lot, which is fine. It's not a bad movie. It's certainly better than Spider-Man 3 and the Amazing Spider-Man 2. But you know, I really want to see Andrew Garfield be Spider-Man again. It's crazy.
And again, like we just had that conversation. There's nothing wrong with having a Batfleck movie and a Patterson Batman series at the same time as well.
Let it go, Zane. Let it go. Batfleck's moving on. Just let it go. I'd like to see him as the Batman who laughs. That would be hilarious, considering he was so stoic in those interviews. The ultimate irony of Batfleck becoming the Batman who laughs.
Be one big Batman who laughs, though, wouldn't he? Like
The Batman who sniggers.
Wow.
And then just goes, I agree entirely. So, speaking of multiverses and things that Sony are looking to do,
yeah,
Deadline have revealed. So obviously, just to preempt that, they're obviously bringing out Morbius sometime soon. So Sony are expanding out the Spider-Verse. They're trying to make it a big thing. See, yeah,
I'm with you.
Okay, so they're trying to expand out the Spider-Verse, and Deadline have now revealed that Dakota Johnson, her of 50 Shades of Grey fame, she is now in talks to take on the title role in Madam Web.
Yeah. Hasn't it been confirmed that she's taken it, or is it just in talks?
They haven't confirmed it yet. Okay. It's just in talks. Now, here's the deal with this, right? So whenever everyone hears Madam Web, they always think about the old woman Madam Web who sits in a chair.
The one in the chair, yeah.
Yeah. There is another Madam Web who is a younger one. I think it's that there's. I think it's
the Julia Carter.
Julia Carpenter one, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's that version of the character. That's a lot younger version of the character. I think it's more than likely that they're trying to cast for that rather than make conspicuously beautiful Dakota Johnson into an old woman. Because, like, in that situation, why would you not cast someone like Helen Mirren, who is an amazing older actress? You know, or Judi Dench. That would be great. I'd love to see Judi Dench as an old lady Madam Web. So I think they're probably angling for a much younger version of the character. Yeah. There is a quote that does say, just to read out this little snippet of the article. So S.J. Clarkson, who's the guy who did The Defenders, the TV series The Defenders, is directing the movie, and it's from a screenplay by the Morbius scribe Matt Sazama and Burke Sharpless. In the comic books, Madam Web is typically portrayed as an elderly woman who is blind and linked up to a life support machine that resembles a web. Sounds like a thrilling character right there. She has psychic abilities and frequently uses other heroes to fight her battles. Wow. Talk about, like, you know, middle management. And then, so as a result, the trade notes that sources have stressed it is possible the project could turn into something else, which is why all this stuff has come up about probably being a younger version of it with Julia Carpenter instead of it being old lady Web. Now, you and I have just had a very brief conversation about the Spider-Verse. Be honest with me, Zane.
Yeah.
Is this really the right direction to take it?
It's an interesting one, to say the least, because they're taking a character, even if it is old lady Web. I guess with the old lady Web stuff, it's kind of like you could connect all the different, you know, Spider-Verses.
I keep thinking of Old Man River when you say that. Old lady Web, that old lady Web. Go on.
Yeah, they could connect it up, or I guess they could still do that with the Julia Carpenter version. It's just, I guess the one, I don't know. I saw this rumor that the director from Jessica Jones might be directing this as well.
I think it's the same. I think it's the guy who did. I think he did The Defenders as well.
Okay,
I think he did The Defenders and Jessica Jones.
Director, but because again, the thing I saw was like this could be like a full female led sort of IP Spider-Man IP sort of thing, which sounded really cool.
I thought that was the older rumor that was going to be what they were trying to angle for.
Yeah, maybe go for like a whole Spider-Women
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Because Kristen Ritter, like there were loads of different people who directed Jessica Jones. Because Kristen Ritter directed an episode as well in season 3, so there was all kinds of different people who did it. I'm not sure. It was Steven Surgic, I think, was the main guy on season 1.
Yeah,
of Jessica Jones. But yeah, I don't know. It's irrelevant anyway. Yeah, regardless of that, the only issue I have with this is the fact that like Sony are not leaning into the best characters in terms of who they could use. Like they're really not. I'm sorry, but like it's like you've got a Spider-Verse. Like the reason why Spider-Man is popular is because people like Spider-Man. They don't give a monkeys about Silk. They don't give it.
Well, they don't say that.
Silk okay, all right.
Has their own solo series.
Sure. Okay, fine. Let me ask you this, Zane. It's a very straightforward question.
Yeah.
You have a Spider-Verse made up of Silk, Black Cat, Madam Web, and let's add in something like a nice one, Spider-Woman. All right, Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, versus this potential Spider-Verse: Ben Reilly, Miles Morales, Miguel O'Hara, and then another Peter Parker. Which one would you prefer, Zane?
I would choose Spider-Gwen.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of the Undisputed Nerds podcast, and we'll be seeing you.
Missed out. That was money on the table.
Yeah, we'll be seeing you. I said Miles. They could do a Miles Spider-Verse thing where she's in it. For God's sake! God damn you! God damn you! Yeah, I just don't think that Sony are using their best characters when it comes to this kind of thing right now. I'm sorry, and I think they have so many. Like I would kill to see a Spider-Man 2099 version. I would love it so much. Like when even Spider-Man Noir as well. Have Nicolas Cage do an animated Spider-Man Noir. That would be amazing. Anyway. Well, that's a topic of conversation we should come back to at some point, because we should probably do that as a topic. We should do like a
pitch our own Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, Spider-Verse we want to see. That'd be great. Put it on the list, Zane. Put it on the list. All right. So the final bit of news I got this week is talking about Moon Knight. Moon Knight is coming up. So we obviously know that Moon Knight is dropping on Disney Plus on March the 30th. I am extraordinarily excited for it. It seems from a quote from Oscar Isaacs, star of said, with Variety. Again, Variety have been getting a lot of scoops this week. So I'm just going to read the whole quote out that he's talking about Moon Knight. So this is a direct quote from lovely Mr. Isaacs. I'd never heard of Moon Knight before, and I collected comics when I was younger. I'd heard of Morbius, but I'd never heard of Moon Knight. I don't know how the process was for you, because it's a feature film and we're a limited series. What?
Sorry, that got me.
Why? He's heard of Morbius and not Moon Knight.
Yeah.
What a dork.
Wake up, Isaac.
Jesus, Isaacs. Apocalypse isn't purple either, but you didn't complain about that, did you? The reason why this is interesting is that he's confirmed that it's a limited series. So this is going to probably be a one-shot deal and then out. My question to you, based on what he said there, is can you see Moon Knight being promoted up into the MCU? So like being part of I was thinking potentially this might be how they start to introduce ensemble films. So I was thinking potentially because you and I have talked a lot about them maybe doing a Marvel Knights movie, like with, for example, forgive the poor choice of wording, but with the Black Knight, and then with Blade, and then maybe Moon Knight as well. And there's been a lot of rumors about Ghost Rider picking up traction, adding Ghost Rider in there. And I've theorized for a long time that they're doing like a a street level Avengers and a cosmic level Avengers. Maybe they're also doing a mythical Avengers potentially to fight the dark side. The dark side. Something.
Magic.
Dark side. Thoughts on this, buddy? And can you see Moon Knight going up to the big screen?
Yeah, I think it's a cool idea. Again, like you mentioned, more street level sort of superheroes, people like Daredevil as well. We've kind of seen him get promoted from TV to movie in some weird way. But yeah, I think the other thing as well is like, I think they've already announced some sequels from the other TV shows. So, for example, did I see Loki get a second series, but not WandaVision?
Yeah, Loki's got that's alternate. They've also just confirmed that one of the TVA agent who is kind of in charge of Mobius, the lady who's like the head of the whole thing. I can't remember what her name is off the top of my head. I'm sorry, but she's coming back for season 2. She's confirmed for season 2 of Loki. They're basically doing. There's no more WandaVision. WandaVision's done because Wanda's story is continuing. Doctor Strange. There's not going to be another Captain America and Winter Soldier because that's obviously continuing, elsewhere. What else have we had? Hawkeye, yeah. All kinds of things. So, I can definitely see this being a one note straight up into proper MCU. I really hate using this comparison, but everyone keeps calling him like the Marvel's Batman. It's not really, but like, I mean, I can see them wanting that kind of character on screen, especially if have they announced whether Blade's going to be a movie or a series yet?
I think it's going to be a movie.
If it's a movie, I'm calling it now. Moon Knight's going to be in it.
Yeah,
I reckon I reckon Blade will be the kickoff for a big team up movie.
Yeah, I saw a rumor today that I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but Leroy Lindo, who he was in the cowboy western movie with John Majors as the sheriff.
Oh, I don't know.
DeRoy, I think is Lindo.
DeRoy.
So there's a rumor that he's in the new Blade movie.
Oh, really?
Which I think is pretty cool.
If I knew who he was and I wasn't terrible with names, then that would be much more impactful on me. But yeah, spell it and I'll type it into Google and I'll find out who this guy is. Yeah. Go on.
Delta Echo.
Yeah.
Lima.
Oh yeah.
Oscar Romeo Yankee.
Delroy.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the surname? Oh, Delroy Lindo. Yes, I do know Delroy Lindo. Yes. Oh, Delroy Lindo. His name's not. It's Delroy.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, it's Delroy Lindo. Yeah, he's oh God, what's he been in? He was in Gone in 60 Seconds, wasn't he? He was one of the guys in Gone in 60 Seconds.
Yeah.
Oh.
I remember him in Romeo Must Die.
Yes. Yeah. Oh man, he's great. He's been in so much stuff. Yes, he is in Blade. They've got it on IMDb. He is going to be in Blade.
Oh, that's cool.
I wonder if he's going to be oh man, I wonder if he'll be like Whistler or someone. Like maybe they'll do a different take on Whistler. Oh, that's intriguing, that one. Yeah, he's the in Gone in 60 Seconds, he's the police officer who's trying to take Nicolas Cage down. And they have that weird scene. It always comes back to Nicolas Cage. And he has that weird scene with Nicolas Cage where they're revving up the engine and he's getting all excited at revving the engine. And he's all like, ho, ho, ho! And Nicolas Cage is secretly getting rid of drugs that are like just on the floor. It's like, oh yeah, do the engine. Oh yeah. For those who haven't seen Gone in 60 Seconds, you go and watch it and you'll know the bit I'm talking about. But yeah, cool. I look forward to see Moon Knight. Whatever they do with it, it's a great character, and there are so many options they can do with it, and it really does feel like they are setting up for a supernatural Avengers team, potentially like Secret Avengers and stuff like that. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, that is this week's tips and bits over with.
Woo, ladies and gentlemen, PG has got tips and bits.
Ew.
Cool. Shall we move on to the main event?
Yes. Let's move on to the main event, which is ranking these effing Star Wars films. Welcome to the bit that is going to either gain us loads of followers or lose us a million. This is what Nicolas Cage has been looking forward to. He's been hinging this on. He said that he was like, "This is the thing I'm most excited for." So like he's really looking forward to this, guys.
Oh lordy!
Let's do it.
Wow, I'm going to zoom in a little bit.
How are we doing this, Zany baby? Are we doing this in sequential order? Are we doing this in chronological release order? Are we doing this in order of appearance? Sorry. Oh, Whoopi Goldberg. Where are we ranking her? For those of you who can't see, it just flashed up on the screen when he's getting the tier list up. I'm sorry.
Which I don't mind. Whatever.
Let's do it. Let's do it the order it was released in, because then you
Okay.
get the most. You get the most kind of impact. So that would be starting with Star Wars, aka Episode 4,
A
The
New Hope.
Last Hope. A New Hope, not The Last Hope. A New Hope. Jesus, it's been a long
Solid.
night. Oh, so the year is 1977. Steven Spielberg has brought out a lovely movie called Jaws, which has redefined summer blockbusters. And then George Lucas, with his big jowl, cannot be left out. So he decides he's going to put it all on the line, baby. All on the line to make this crazy, out there, whacked out Star Wars.
A war in space.
A war of the stars. Yes. So, I mean, there is, like, we're not going to deep dive into the movies too much, because if you guys have not seen these films, A, what are you doing watching a podcast or listening to a podcast about tier ranking the Star Wars films? But B, have you had your head buried in a rock for 50 years? Because I know I mixed metaphors there, because it should be, have you been hiding under a rock with your head buried in the sand? But no, have you had your head buried under a rock? I mean, Star Wars is the thing that created like modern merchandise for films, really. It is one of the most iconic pieces of cinema in history. It kickstarted the career of Harrison Ford, who is still a bankable star to this day. This film was looked upon as kind of a joke until Peter Cushing and Alec Guinness came on board and lent it some acting clout, both of which did it well. Alec Guinness famously did this film because he needed something to do for his children, and he thought it was going to be the end of his career. That is a legit story from behind the scenes. They obviously famously hired Harrison Ford because he was a carpenter on the set. That's how he got the job as Han Solo. It's Mark Hamill's second film behind Graffiti. Or was it the American Graffiti? I think was his first. I know it's George Lucas's second behind that as well. I might be wrong in that. I think it was actually that's wrong. It's George Lucas's second film behind American Graffiti. Is it? Wait, hang on. I'm wrong. He did the THX, whatever it was, THX, blah 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 blah. Okay. I'm sure there's a friend of the show called City Gamers who'll be watching this, and he'll just be going, "You're wrong. You're getting it all wrong. Stop getting Star Wars wrong." Anyway, regardless, this film was, I think it's suffice to say, a monumental success when it came out. Having rewatched it quite recently, I mean, this was one of the films I grew up on when I was a child. Like, it was one of the, it's one of the reasons I am into Star Wars to this day still. It's an amazing film for the time, depending on which versions you look at it, because obviously George Lucas took it and remastered it and added in a bunch of stuff to it, which I mean, I love this film. It's fantastic. It's a bit dated, obviously, because of the limitations of the time. But yeah, Zane, what are your thoughts on this one?
I mean, it's very Disney in the sense of, even though it's not a Disney movie, I know that, but in the sense that the hero loses his parents, he goes on this grand adventure, and things. It plays it by the numbers, sort of thing.
It's the hero's quest. That's the whole.
Yeah. It's a textbook, isn't it? I have to admit, growing up, I wasn't blown away by this. And the reason being is because my family was more of Star Trek, so it wasn't till the prequels came out
folks.
Yeah, I know.
Right. So if that in that regard, you've just given up all your rights to any ranking of these prequel movies, of these original trilogy movies.
Yeah,
you realize.
No, I'm being completely honest. Like I could give you my thoughts, but I don't think it would be fair because it's not.
You weren't influenced as much like I was when. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't watch these till I was already a teenager. When I was like, actually, I'm going to go back and watch these with.
No, I can
new impression.
That. Yeah. So, looking at this from what it did to cinema, you think about the idea as well that like this story, whilst it is a tired old trope in that regard now in 2022, in 1977, not many people had seen anything like this. It was a phenomenon. I can still watch this today and be like and enjoy myself, and like not just because I love Star Wars, but it's a really well crafted film. Like it is a good film.
Story.
Yeah, it's a great story, and like the acting in it ranges from like quite wooden because a lot of the actors are kind of young and inexperienced to Peter Cushing is really great in this. Like Darth Vader, the first time you see Darth Vader on screen, it's amazing. Like he's seriously imposing and terrifying, and he like chokes somebody out within the first like 5 minutes. It's like, yeah, there you go, have a neck snap for your trouble. He was very imposing and very terrifying. I personally would like to put this as an S because this was the thing that it started everything. Everything that we see today, from Book of Boba Fett, Mando, everything spawned from this. And it had to do that. In order to do that, it had to be actually quite good. As we, there's a reason why we don't. Yeah. There's a reason why we don't see the Chronicles of Riddick stories right now. So, thank you. It was it's just a crazy sci-fi thing that I can think of off the top of my head. So yeah, I would like to put this as an S, please.
Can just as advice, is it possible to put this as an A, knowing Empire Strikes Back is better than this?
No, it's not. Put it as an S. I agree with you. Empire's better, but Empire's better for different reasons. You have to think about it as a whole thing. Like the first two in this original trilogy. If this was a conversation that we were having about Return of the Jedi, yeah, that's fine. I'm totally fine with that. We put Return of the Jedi further down, but like Empire and A New Hope are like perfect movies for their genre, and they are perfect stories. And I will, if you would like me to talk a little bit about Empire, I can.
Yeah.
So some of the things about Empire that people don't realize. So it wasn't directed by George Lucas, the second one. Oh God, Irving. I can never get his name right. What was his name? Again, Cindy's going to be like watching this, just going, "Get it right."
Why wasn't George directing this one?
Irving Kershner, that's his name. George Lucas, there was a big deal after Star Wars 1 where Star Wars Episode 4, where basically he had to go to Fox to distribute the film. He was very protective of his creations and didn't want it to be homogenized by the studio system. So he was very reluctant to give the rights over to anyone or any of that kind of stuff, which is why George Lucas has always owned the rights to Star Wars until he sold it to Disney. Right. He distributed it through, he had to get a studio to distribute it if he wanted to actually make any money back on it. He didn't have a choice. So he signed the licensing rights to distribution over for the first Star Wars movie to Fox. So the whole process of doing that on top of directing and writing and producing basically made old Big Jowls exhausted. And he didn't want to do it again. So that's why Irvin Kershner, who was a friend of his, came in for the sequel. It was still written and produced by George Lucas. It's also an interesting thing that people didn't realize as well, is that you'll notice that when Disney Plus went live, all of the Star Wars films were on there, apart from A New Hope.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
So episodes 1 to 3, and then 5, 6, 7, and I think it was 8 at the time, they were all on there, including Solo and Rogue One. But Fox held the licensing rights to distribute A New Hope, which is why A New Hope, that the collection was not complete. So in buying Fox, they also got back the licensing rights to A New Hope, in addition to all the other Marvel stuff. So yeah, people don't realize that, like, when Disney Plus came out, all the Star Wars stuff was on there, apart from A New Hope, because it was the only one that they didn't legally have any rights to show. There you go. So it's irrelevant now because they got everything now. But it's just a little interesting tidbit. So some other things to note for when episode 5 came out. So obviously we had an expanded story of the universe. It took place several years after A New Hope. And there's another bit we can talk about as well, which is the naming conventions of these films, because there was a lot of confusion when this film was released. So obviously when the first film came out in 1977, it was just called Star Wars. And then Lucas went back and he named this one Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. And everyone was like, why have you called it Episode 5? That doesn't make any sense. There's like, you've only made one before. So the reason was that Lucas originally wrote nine films originally. And the stories were sprawling, and he looked at all 9, and he knew he wants to make a trilogy, apparently he knew, even though it's kind of like, we'll never know, but apparently he wants to make a trilogy. And he looked at all 9 and said, what would be the most accessible to general audiences that would probably be a touch-off point? And he identified that the story of Luke and Leia would be the best, most approachable story, because it's quite an easy, otherwise you've got this situation where it's like Vader, the turn of Vader as the first 3, where you've got this kind of bratty, snotty kid who turns into a monster, which doesn't really appeal that much, although it's interesting to look back on. Then you've got this middle section, and then the ending. We'll talk about the rumored ending when we talk about 7, 8, and 9. But that was the whole reason why it's labeled 4, 5, and 6, because those were the ones that he identified as being most commercially viable and palatable for people.
I heard in an interview once he said that he was held back a little bit by technology at the time, because he said to do a clone war, they didn't have the technology at the time to kind of render that, so that's why it was impossible to kind of do something like that.
There was that. I mean, I would argue that what he did with the technology at the time with 4, 5, and 6 was pretty damn good. Like when you think about the scale, especially when you look at the thing I always love about Empire. The other thing to talk about Empire is Mark Hamill had a car crash between 4 and 5. So if you watch episode 4 and then watch episode 5, Skywalker's appearance changes quite dramatically between those two. His face changes, and he had a really bad, near fatal car accident between 4 and 5, and basically it messed up his face. It damaged his face. He's got there was nerve damage in his face and stuff like that, which is why he looks different. If you see Mark Hamill in episode 4 and then see him in episode 5, which is 3 years later, he looks very different, and it's because he unfortunately had a very nasty car accident. There you go. So just covering a bit from this film, amazing action set pieces. Like the miniature work that they do on this, the Battle of Hoth is still to this day incredible. Like it's still awesome. It's still referenced in films. They referenced it in Civil War, where the AT-ATs get taken down. We get the introduction of Yoda. It's the first time we ever see Yoda on screen in Empire, training Luke. We get Banthas, not Banthas, what are they called? Tauntauns, sorry. Yep. Tauntauns for the first time. The old bounty hunters. So we get the introduction of Boba Fett, the first time ever on screen. We'll talk about that next week. Very different in the series than he is in those movies. Very different. Yes, the incompetent bounty hunter Boba Fett. I think the thing that this film is probably most famous for is obviously we're all aware of that famous scene when Billy D. Williams turns up and is Lando Calrissian, and we're all like, "Yeah, it's Billy D. Williams! Look how cool he is!" Hey. No, I'm of course talking about the "I Am Your Father," which is one of the biggest twists in cinema history. It's interesting. You look back on things now, and that thing, I mean, that twist has been it's so overexposed. Everyone knows it. Like everyone is aware of it. But my God, just think about what that was like in the cinema. Like it's like that was the equivalent of Garfield and Maguire turning up in the day. Like, can you imagine the people in the cinema when he says that, and they're just like, "What the hell?"
One thing that shocked me about this, when I watched it for the first time, was Han Solo. Is it carbonated?
Yes.
Is that the term?
Frozen in carbonate, yeah.
Yeah, when he gets frozen. That always sticks in my head. Especially it's like a slow descent as well. It's not like a quick, off-screen. Well, I guess it is kind of off-screen, but yeah.
It is. Another side note on this that, again, people may be aware of, they may not be. There's a running joke that Harrison Ford has wanted to die as Han Solo a lot in these Star Wars movies. And it all stems from this, because he originally was supposed to die in this film. So Han Solo was going to die at the end of Empire Strikes Back. So Boba Fett was going to he was going to collect on the bounty by killing Han Solo. And that would be the motivation going forth for Luke to potentially turn bad in Return of the Jedi, because his best friend had just been killed by the Empire, that kind of thing. And it was only because Lucas was very stubborn that he was like, no, I want to bring back Han Solo in future films. So, I think there was a bit more to it, but there was definitely a lot of cajoling back, behind the scenes about whether or not he should die, whether it was through carbonite or whether it was off screen by Boba Fett. And then he wouldn't come back for Return of the Jedi. They would say he had died between movies. So that whole thing, descending into the carbonite chamber, that was I think the reason why that was done was so much like gravitas and like emotional resonance of like, I love you, I know, was because it might have been his last scene. It could well have been the end for Han Solo. Like that could have been it.
That's the first time as well that I seen, not the I love you part, because you see that quite often in movies, but the fact that he turns around and says, I know, and like, doesn't obviously say it back, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of,
it's Han Solo. He's the cool, he's like the coolest guy in the galaxy. Of course he's not going to say it back. Why, until he does in Return of the Jedi. But yeah, anyway. So I think there's no doubt in my mind that both of the first two films, Episode 4 and Episode 5, deserve their place at the top of the heap. They are phenomenal movies. You can watch them together or separate, regardless. The original trilogy it's not a masterpiece, because there are some things in Return of the Jedi that unfortunately make it fall down. So we'll go on to that now. So Return of the Jedi was originally called Revenge of the Jedi. Once upon a time, and then it was deemed that revenge was something that the Jedi didn't do. And so they renamed the title to Return of the Jedi. I would say it's kind of again, it wasn't directed this time by Irving Kershner or George Lucas. It was a Welsh director. I can't remember who it was. Let me just find that out, because that's going to drive me crazy. So I can never remember this guy's name. Richard Marquand. That's it. Richard Marquand was the guy who directed episode 6. So he's directed a load of different kind of bits and bobs, but small bit of behind the scenes knowledge that you guys may or may not know. The original person who was supposed to direct episode 6 was going to be George Lucas's best friend, Steven Spielberg.
Oh, wow.
And unfortunately, they had because of Lucas's falling out with studios after the distribution rights thing with Star Wars 1, Spielberg was signed up to a studio to direct certain films, and they wouldn't let him go. They insisted on him making specific movies. So as a result of that, he could not direct episode 6. So they got in Richard Marquand, who I think was a friend of Steven Spielberg's. And for the most part, he does a fine job. Return of the Jedi, right, is a fine film in the sense of, like, I can watch it as part of this trilogy, and it's still good.
Yeah.
There's a lot to say about we haven't even talked about Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia either.
That's true.
But there's a lot to say about the casting of this film. The characters and the people they got to play them are so lovable and so easily, drawn to. C-3PO and R2, like, they're just adorable. Chewbacca, you love him, the big walking carpet. He's great, and the three main Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford, they just work really well together, and you believe that they're friends.
Yeah.
And so this, Return of the Jedi was the culmination of the phenomenon of Star Wars, really, and everyone thought that was it, basically. It's the end of Luke Skywalker's journey to become a Jedi. We get a nice bit of Tatooine with Jabba. We finally get a full kind of, we've had mystery kind of thing about Jabba the Hutt, if you don't watch Lucas's extended thing, but you've had the mystery of Jabba the Hutt and what he is and what he does. So we get a nice little insight into the criminal underworld on Tatooine, which is kind of cool to see again. Get Leia in a gold bikini. I mean, yeah, a million fanboys growing up were very happy about that. You get Boba Fett being incompetent as a bounty hunter, which is good to see on screen. And basically murdering or almost murdering himself. I think where this film falls apart and where it struggles is Yavin and the Ewoks. They were the Jar Jar of their day. They're to quote Spaced, the TV show Spaced. Jar Jar Binks makes the Ewoks look like effing Shaft, but in this, they're kind of, they're quirky kid comic relief. They did introduce the world to Warwick Davis, which is something I will be always eternally grateful for, because he's amazing, especially as the Leprechaun. Go out there and watch those terrible movies; they're hilarious. I can understand why Harrison Ford wanted to kill off Han Solo, because he kind of doesn't really have so much to do in this film other than just be kind of like, oh, he's just there kind of thing. This is all about not all about, but this is mainly about Luke becoming a Jedi and stopping the Emperor. Of course, the Emperor is this shadowy figure that we hadn't seen up until that point, and then we get to see him on screen. And he's a wrinkly old man. I'm trying to think of where to place this. Really, the lightsaber fight between Vader and Luke at the end is actually very good for the time. And it does establish a nice, and it does resolve the Anakin arc of obviously of redemption, of ultimate redemption, and being the one to bring balance to the Force by killing the Emperor.
The score during that fight as well is so engulfing.
I actually, now that you said that as well, I really like the Falcon flight in this as well, and the taking out of the Death Star. I much prefer. It's funny because everyone always talks about the Death Star trench from the first one. That is the most memorable kind of flight. This one for me is the one where I'm just like, this is great when they're like, it's super tight and he's flying the Falcon. I'm not going to say,
isn't it?
I'm not going to say that Lando flies the Falcon better than Han Solo, but I mean, just look at this film. But like where he's flying it right through, like this, it's massive. It's a freighter, for God's sake. It's like a YT-3000 flight. It's huge, and like he's flying it through the bloody Death Star. It's amazing. I really like this flight sequence. Sorry, and I like the whole ending of it. It's the middle bit. It's the middle bit that's the problem with the Ewoks. We also obviously get the revelation as well that Leia is Luke's sister, which makes the kiss that they share in Empire a little bit icky. But they didn't know. They didn't know, guys. They didn't know. They didn't do it since. They just didn't know. I think whereas the other two don't really have slow moments, it's kind of just like a really well-paced boom, 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 boom. This one, the middle bit with the Ewoks is what lets it down. So I would probably put this around a B, if I'm honest. It's the thing that makes the trilogy just not quite perfect, but it's still well worth watching, especially with the other two. So that was the end of Star Wars, Zane. Or so you thought. Until in 1999, George Lucas did a little something else. Would you like to tell us what he did in 1999, Zane?
Was it 1999?
Yeah, because it was
96.
No, it was 99. No? It was the same year as The Matrix. And that's why there was this big thing about the fact that the Wachowskis kicked the ass of Star Wars, because The Matrix was massive and everyone hated episode 1.
So I guess in a weird way, we got episode 1. It was announced that this would be the prequel to the trilogy that we had back in the 70s and 80s. Here's a weird thing. Great sort of cast in terms of Liam Neeson.
Oh my God.
Obviously, Ewan McGregor, who at this point had only done indie films and, Trainspotting.
Yes, sort of. He'd done a couple of other... He'd done some mainstream films in America. Like he'd done a film with Cameron Diaz, which I'm trying to remember what the name of it was, which I will find now. And I think it was the next year that he did Baz Luhrmann's Moulin Rouge. But I mean, Trainspotting. He'd done Trainspotting, which was a global hit everywhere. But yes, you're right. He was much more of an indie darling when it comes to movies. But yes, cast listing was great. I agree. Please continue.
Natalie Portman. I'm trying to think who else is in this. Natalie Portman. Keira Knightley.
Keira Knightley before she was Keira Knightley.
Yeah. Fantastic cast. In a sense, it was a way to kind of like rejuvenate, A, the franchise, and B, kind of get old fans and new fans alike to watch Star Wars again. I guess in a way it kind of played up to its own tropes, like in terms of having puppeteers back because we got to see the Jedi in their full state, didn't we, really?
Yeah, I mean, this film... So it was A Life Less Ordinary, by the way, was the film I was talking about with Cameron Diaz and Ewan McGregor. That was the one I was thinking of that he did in 97. That was kind of his Ewan McGregor's like main brush with Hollywood at that time, if you're not talking about Trainspotting or Shallow Grave. But yeah, episode 1 was a response. Lucas basically he'd had kids, and he wanted to revisit Star Wars to give Star Wars to a new generation, was the idea. So he wanted to reintroduce it and do the full arc of Vader, which after 20 years, it was determined that Vader was the most resounding character that came out of that series that everyone wanted to kind of know about and see more of. So that's what episode 1, 2, and 3 were kind of based around, was the journey of Anakin Skywalker becoming Darth Vader. Yeah. I mean, God, episode 1. I think the main issue that a lot of people have about episode 1 was that it wasn't necessarily because he didn't really rely on puppets and practical effects anymore. And I think that bothered a lot of people. I think the over reliance of this film on CGI was what really bothered a lot of people. You know, when you think about how much of this movie is, you know, Ewan McGregor's famously gone on interviews to state that, like, you know, he was disappointed when he turned up to set and he just stood on a green screen and was like, "Oh, are we gonna move to another set later?" And George Lucas famously apparently said to him, "Oh, it's none of it real." Apparently, exactly like that. He said, apparently, it's like Yoda. He went, "It's none of it real." So, you know, I think that was one of the main criticisms about episode 1, was that it was just like CGI gone crazy.
Now you said it, I can't help but think of all the CGI bits now all at once. The Gungan City,
the droids,
water. Yeah, the I guess the big, the first time ever big CGI fight.
Yeah.
The Gungans versus the droids.
Yeah, the big climactic fight is all CGI. You know, young Anakin flying the Naboo starfighter into the trade ship. You know, I think that was, you know, and whilst we're talking about that was the other part of it that people were annoyed at, was that, you know, it's a Star Wars movie. It's, you know, it's amazing. Like, it's all this, like, it's, you know, this wonderful, fantastical land, and it's wild. And then the main plot of the movie is a trade dispute. Who cares? I don't give a monkeys about that. I want to see Jedi messing stuff up. Episode 1 is not good for me. However, there are very redeeming features on it. So the pod racing sequence, again, all CGI, is excellent. Like, it's really good. The pod racing sequence is great. Darth Maul as a villain, as a concept, as a style, is amazing. And the triple lightsaber fight at the end between him, Qui-Gon, and the duel of, isn't it the duel of the fates? I think that's what it's called, isn't it?
Oh, duel of fates, yeah.
That is excellent to this. Like, it's incredible. And that music that they did, John Williams' score, is phenomenal for that. I literally, like, if I hear it, if I just hear in my head, like, that immediately just conjures up lightsaber fights, and I'm just like, yes. So it is saved by that.
It's not saved by Brian Blessed.
What are you talking about? He's great. Misa. Imagine a kid seeing that. It's great. It's just the thing is, it's not for, you know, I am a late 30-something man.
Yeah.
It's not. It wasn't created for me. I imagine that, like, kids, there are kids probably, like, you know, coming up to, like, their mid-20s now. For them, this is their Star Wars. You know, episode 1, 2, and 3 is like, that was the best. It's the best Star Wars ever. It's my trilogy. You know what I mean? It's very subjective. It's the same with, like, Bond and stuff. Everyone has a favorite Bond because it's the one they grew up with. You know, my personal favorite, I really love Pierce Brosnan because I grew up with it. I'm not saying he's the best. I'm not subjectively saying he's the best because he's been in some stonker films. But, like, for me personally, it's very reassuring seeing him as James Bond. Just like for me, it's very reassuring watching episode 5 and 4 and 6. I did that in a weird order. Why didn't I just say 4, 5, 6? But yeah, I think over reliance on CGI, a weird ass story where it just meanders like a weirdo. Oh, the other thing I hate about this, introducing midichlorians as
that's
a
bit rubbish.
Yeah, it was terrible. This boy has more midichlorians than anyone I've seen. I will find him because I have a very specific set of skills. Thanks, Liam Neeson.
Have you noticed how the communicator he used looks like a razor?
No, I haven't, but now you've raised it.
Looks like a Gillette razor sort of thing. There are other razors out there, by the way. But yeah.
How many midichlorians does he have? This is the closest shave I've ever experienced.
This is the coolest shave I've ever had on a desert planet.
Are you saying episode 1 is one giant razor advert? That would be great, wouldn't it?
Maybe all the money went into CGI.
Yeah, and then the bit at the end where Darth Maul gets cut in half. He didn't use his razor properly. Ooh.
So he's as fresh a man could get.
Oh dear. Right. I was trying to think of a good pun with razors then for Sith, but I couldn't think of one. Anyway, you know what, Zane? I pretty much ranked the first 3. You do this one. You do episode 1.
Oh,
put the pressure on you. The nerds are already writing their letters.
Is it?
Is it?
Here's the thing: how redeeming is the redeeming? Is it high enough to put it into a B, or is it too damaging to?
If I had my choice of which movie to watch over Return of the Jedi or Episode 1, I would watch Return of the Jedi, hands down, any day, because Return of the Jedi has the entire Jabba's Palace bit, which is still awesome. It has the entire end sequence with the Millennium Falcon flight through the Death Star and the Skywalker fight, Anakin and Luke versus Anakin. Episode 1, I will only watch the movie for 2 parts. And that is based on how long that movie is, because it's a long movie.
Yeah.
I will only watch it for the pod racing bit, and the Duel of the Fates. And even the Duel of the Fates has been intercut with the bloody droid Gungan fight. So it still takes things away from me. So I would agree with you that it's probably a C personally, but that's, again, I just want to point out, guys, we're not definitively saying this is what is right and wrong. We are saying from our personal standpoint, this is where we think these movies are ranked. So if you do disagree with us, completely fair. No worries. I think one of our watchers has said that Attack of the Clones is one of his favorite films, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. It's just for us, it's we'll talk about Attack of the Clones in a minute, but
Well, I guess we've got to talk about it now because it's the next one.
Yes. Go on, Zane. Have you got some nice things to say about this one?
I really like Jango Fett.
God,
Jango Fett is really cool. He's got cool armor.
Jango Fett? What you mean, Boba Fett? What?
Jango Fett has silver and blue, cool grey armor. There was a video game based on him called Bounty Hunter Bounty.
That's a long title.
PS2 and GameCube.
Tell me, what was Bounty Hunter Bounty Bounty about?
It was about Count Dooku and Jango Fett,
right.
the coolest character in all of Star Wars.
Okay,
so cool. It took Samuel L. Jackson to defeat him.
Oh my god! Yeah, really easily.
Someone who was just too cool. In his presence.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Let's just ask a couple of questions about this film. So, episode 2, right?
Yes.
Name me 3 scenes from episode 2.
Okay, cool. First scene, Anakin chases weird lady in a pod and jumps out and he says, "I'm sorry, Manchester." Like, he dropped
Manchester?
His yeah. Because Obi-Wan's hair is like as glorious as Manchester.
Right, got you. Okay, that's one scene.
Second scene?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, second scene. They're in the pits and they're fighting off 3 monsters, and Padme gets striked, but it's just enough for her belly to show. And
Oh, right.
Anakin's like, oh, yeah.
Erotica. Yes,
Everything's at PG.
that is also the same scene where Django dies, so you can't now use that one as your third.
Okay, here's my third scene. There's a scene in this construction part. I can't remember the name of the planet. It's where all the bugs live, and they're constructing droids and super droids. And then R2 learns that he can actually fly and opens up these compartments on the side of his feet, and rockets flies through.
So what you've done there is you've inadvertently given me exactly what I wanted, which is you've described the very beginning of the film and the very end of the film, and anything in between is just completely forgotten, because that's what this film is. It is a nothing film. It is a stopgap between 1 and 3, and like there's one bit that I can remember from the middle, which is when Obi-Wan goes to Kamino to investigate the droids, not the droids, the clones, the clone army that is being created in secret because they're about to take over, blah blah blah, because there's an impending war. The other thing about this movie, the good thing about this movie, is it introduces Christopher Lee as Count Dooku.
Yes.
And Christopher Lee is incredible and was incredible in anything that he was in. Fight me, nerds. He's phenomenal. And he was phenomenal. So I was very happy to see Christopher Lee. Also, it was interesting because it was a Sith Lord that had fallen from the light, so to speak. We'd never seen a Jedi who had fallen before. We'd only ever seen proper Sith Lords. I know Vader is technically a Jedi who had fallen, but we'd never seen him properly fall or anything like that, whereas Dooku was established as like this evil Jedi who trained or was trained by Qui-Gon. Truthfully, I can remember a part when Anakin picks up 2 lightsabers for like a mini fight with Count Dooku, and that was very cool. And then he gets his hand cut off immediately, and I was like, "Oh, okay, well, that's rubbish." But yeah, the problem I have with this film is it's just filler. It's just filler, and it's filled with rubbish stuff like the love affair between Padme and Anakin.
Yeah.
Oh, Lucas, write better lines, write better love dialogue. What is wrong with you? That whole bit on Naboo is just cringe. Like the whole thing is cringe. The other thing that we didn't mention as well, by the way, that we probably should have mentioned, is that episode 1, 2, and 3 were all 3 directed by George Lucas. So he came back and did all 3, unlike the original trilogy, which he only directed the first one, and then handed the reins over to other people. And apparently that was in his mind that he was going to do that. And he was going to hand it over. He hadn't talked about which directors would do it, but there was a plan for him to potentially just do episode 1 and then hand the reins over to someone else, but then just decided against it and went, "No, I'm just going to do all of them." I'm not a huge fan of episode 2. Again, what you've just said there as well, when Django gets killed by Mace Windu, like, Jesus Christ, we're supposed to establish that bounty hunters are badass, like, and they can bring in Jedi, like they have the ability to take down Jedi, and every time we've seen them on screen, they just get their asses handed to them. And this one is just the worst. And like the little Boba Fett, good God Almighty, what was that? Get him, Dad, get him. How is that good? Oh, it's just really bad. It's really bad. Having said all that, you can place it.
I know George set out to make everyone look like a badass in this, and I don't think that works too well at all. From Mannequin Skywalker to Obi-Wan.
Oh yeah, we haven't even talked about that. This was Hayden Christensen's. This was his first. This was him playing Anakin for the first time ever.
This is model turned actor.
Yes. I will talk about Hayden Christensen more in episode 3. I will say his acting in this, I mean, when he made his first appearance in this film, I did think somebody had just thrown a chair into the room. But he's, you know, he's still what he is, you know.
Yeah.
You like that, didn't you?
Yeah, I don't know why that tickled me, but yeah, that was hilarious.
Yeah,
We
no,
also
it's
see Yoda fight for the very first time
yes,
as
we
well.
do. I forgot about that again. I forgot about that. Yes,
Another CG
yeah.
fight.
I was going to say that amazing puppet fight. Oh wait, no, it was CGI. I will say there's probably well, no, that's not true because you can do. Look at Boba Fett. They've just done a puppet thing jumping. They can quite easily do that. Yes, the Count Dooku Yoda fight is interesting. I guess you see why Yoda is kind of a badass in the sense of like he's so unbelievably hard to hit with a lightsaber. He just does. He's like the Young Bucks. He just does flippy shit. Yeah, I think that it's.
Do you think it's worse than episode 1?
Oh, it hurts. I don't know. It's definitely on the same level as episode 1, 100%. It's whether or not it's a D or a C. Do you think it has as many redeeming qualities as episode 1 does with the Duel of the Fates and the pod racing? No. Honestly, you don't.
No, I don't think it is. No.
Then there's your answer. Okay, moving on. Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. So this is the culmination of the prequel. It is the beginning, it's the midway point of the Clone Wars, where the Separatist army is fighting the Clone Army. What people don't realize is that the Supreme Chancellor Palpatine is also the supreme leader of the Separatist army, and he is
Senate.
I am the Senate, and he's created this entire war as a political machination to gain ultimate power over the galaxy.
Yes,
and you know what, Zane? It bloody works. This guy's a genius. We get a lot more of a deep dive into Palpatine in this one as well. Like a lot more of his kind of behind the scenes, how he is as Sidious. We see Anakin turn. I mean, I will say that the turn is kind of, it still doesn't sit great with me to this day because the motivations for it are just really ropey. Like the whole idea is the whole idea behind all of this, right, is the fact that like the reason why the Jedi don't have attachments, why they don't get involved in relationships, is because love is really dangerous and it can turn people to make stupid decisions, which you can definitely see because Anakin makes a really stupid decision in this, which ultimately is his downfall, and that's what leads to his decline. The bit I kind of have a problem with this is that so for those of you who don't know, Anakin Skywalker is Darth Vader, and he turns to the dark side. And he's always had a problem with the Jedi Council. He's kind of a little brat right from the get-go. When we first see him in episode 1, he's a little brat. And then he just becomes more of a little brat. I completely forgot about the bit in episode 2 where his mum gets killed. We see that bit in episode 2. I totally forgot about that. Just goes to show how forgetful episode 2 is. But we've basically seen the slow degeneration of Anakin into Darth Vader, into the dark side version. Now, it's been established that him and Obi-Wan are friends, and they've developed this weird bond, of Knight Padawan and then Master and Knight. So they've always been, like chums, buds, broskies. And I find it really hard to swallow the idea that Anakin Skywalker in this film finds out that Palpatine is the ultimate Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Sidious. He finds that out, and he actually goes and he tells Mace Windu. And he's like, he's a Dark Lord of the Sith. He's a bad guy. And Mace Windu basically says, that's great, wait here. And then he goes to take out thing. This is the part that I have a problem with, is that he knows he's a Sith Lord. He knows that they are the dark side. They are masters of deceit. And his main motivation is, I want to save Padme at all costs.
Yeah.
So I'm going to save the most evil man in the universe so that I can keep my wife alive. When he has zero evidence that he can do that, by the way. Absolutely zero evidence. Nothing. Nada. Zilch. No, there's no discussions about it. There's no like, oh yeah. He's got nothing. And yet he thinks, oh yeah, I'm gonna save this guy because he's evil and he'll be able to help me.
What makes me
am I
laugh
missing something?
That scene feels so long where he's just pasting.
He's copy and pasting Padme's face onto other people, thinking I can't replace her.
That scene feels like a copy and paste of him just wandering backwards and forwards. It's just
It's
like silence. Yeah, where he's like, "Oh, do I go? Do I go? Do I stay? Do I stay?
Yeah.
Go. I go."
Yeah, exactly. And then so that's one part, and I can kind of see. Okay, yeah, he's struggling with the dichotomy of it. This is the part I don't like about this film, by the way. Yeah, well, we'll talk about. But then he goes from that.
Yeah.
Right. There is not a lot of time gap between that, Order 66, and then when he's in the Jedi Temple killing kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to save your wife, love. Nice work.
Yeah.
It's just weird. It's just a weird character motivation very quickly. And then he goes from that to like, I'm going to build a new order with me and Padme at the head of it. And I'm like, I get that you've got like, it just didn't, I think it's more a damaging result of Lucas's kind of quick writing to kind of pull together loads of stories into one, coherent kind of blob, that it just feels very, the thing feels very rushed and very, shoddy kind of thing. The other thing that I don't really like about this necessarily is they fell into the trope that the old Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions fell into, which is they used too many external plot kind of devices to kind of try and bring the narrative all together. So they were relying on like books and stuff like that to introduce General Grievous, who just suddenly appears in episode 3 as this like, massive like lord of the clones of the clone army. No, the separatist army, sorry. But the thing is about that is that Grievous is a really interesting character, like is a genuinely interesting character. And if you've watched the Clone Wars expanded CGI series, he's really good in it, and it's a great character, who's murdered so many. He's what a bounty hunter should be, Zane. Yeah. He's murdered so many Jedi. He has the lightsaber collection.
Yeah, I think there's also like a 2-part not anime, but animated Clone Wars series. And even in that, it's quite shocking because you actually see him fight, I think, like 3 or 4 Jedis at once.
That's why he's got with his 4 arms as well, because he's just parrying all 4 of them at once with his. It's great. It's really good. Yeah, is that the episode? That's the episode where he kidnaps Palpatine, isn't it? Because he kidnaps him, and then that's why he's kidnapped at the beginning of episode 3.
I remember it's a load of short mini stories because you see Anakin pass his
his
Jedi Knight trials, and they cut off his little braid.
Is that the one where he fights Ventress as well? Yeah, which is great as well. That's I cannot praise those Clone Wars series enough as far as like even the anime, like those, as you said, it kind of anime inspired. There's kind of almost a Japanesey kind of styling to them, but those and the we'll talk about them maybe on the show at some point, but like they're amazing. The things I really like about this, the Count Dooku fight against Anakin Obi-Wan is really good, with Anakin ultimately, the ultimate like, do it. Should I do it? Do it. And he cuts his head off. That's great. God, the meme of the hello there. It's just it is superb. I tell you, with this film as well, we haven't talked very much about it, but the shining light of this entire prequel trilogy is Ewan McGregor. He is amazing in it, absolutely incredible in this. And he's really come into his own in episode 3. Like he's got the spirit of Guinness. And he's just brilliant in it. I adore Ewan McGregor in these films. That's why I'm really excited to see him coming back for the Kenobi series. They really ramped up the fight sequences in this. The Palpatine Yoda fight is great. The Mace Windu City Palpatine fight is amazing.
Really? Do you reckon that was good?
Yes, I'll tell you why it's good. Because there have been so many like things about the fact that Mace Windu's like this badass, and like there's like lore behind why he has a purple lightsaber. Yeah. So which I don't. For those of you who are not in the know, the reason why Mace Windu has a purple lightsaber is not because he just likes purple, although he does. But the purple lightsaber is supposed to be given to the Jedi that is the greatest lightsaber combatant in the universe, in the galaxy. Mace Windu is so good at lightsaber fighting that he creates. So all of the lightsaber duels, all of that, they all have different forms of fighting. So one's called Suresu. I can't remember what the other ones are off the top of my head, but like basically there's 6 forms. Windu he created his own form of lightsaber fighting, which is the 7th form. And the reason why he created that is because he uses the dark side to channel into his lightsaber fighting. So when he's doing his lightsaber fight, he is actually channeling the dark side of the Force to specifically fight that, because he's the only one who can. And that is why he has a purple lightsaber. And the reason why I love that fight is because so Palpatine is the Dark Lord of the Sith. Darth Sidious is a effing badass. Like he's got all the dark side power, right? Within the first 20 seconds of that fight, he kills 3 Jedi Masters like that. Just gone, like chopped down. Windu is the only one who has a proper fight with him and actually would have beaten him. He actually would have killed him if Anakin hadn't turned up. And I love that, because up until that point, there was nothing about, like, there was just like, oh yeah, it's Sam Jackson. And everyone loves Sam Jackson because he's pretty cool. Yeah. And up until that point, it was like, I mean, he just looks cool, doesn't he? He's got a purple lightsaber. That's cool. He chopped off Django's head. That was good. But there, in that one moment, we actually see in the films why Mace Windu is such a badass. Because not only does he go up against the most powerful Sith Lord that there has been for hundreds of years, he would have taken him out. And it's great. I still to this point, there's a bit when they circle around in front of the window, and he like kicks his lightsaber out and it smashes the window, and neither of them flinch. They're just like so focused on each other. It's really good.
That part's cool. It's just the actual fight sequence between them, because they dance around so much. And I looked into it because I was like, it's a bit weird. Like, for comparison's sake, the opening fight sequence with Obi-Wan and Christopher Lee and Anakin, it was a weird pace, and apparently George wanted to focus more on the actor's face for that fight sequence than compared to the Dooku fight. Yeah, because with the Dooku fight, they had a stand-in who did all of the sword work instead of Christopher Lee, but then they CGI'd his face over. Right. So when it came to the wider shots, but when it came to the closer shots, of course, it's Christopher Lee.
Are you trying to tell me that Ian McDernand's sex faces in that scene are not worth the price of admission? They're amazing. I love that fight.
It's not like 2 older men like clapping sticks, but yeah.
I would politely disagree with that, but that's fair enough. I like that fight more than I like the Yoda fight with Sidious, where it's just bouncy CGI goofiness, where he's jumping all over the place trying to hit him, and it just looks ridiculous. And you know, Yoda force pushes him at one point, and he gets his skirt up over his head. That looks ridiculous.
How do you feel about the Obi-Wan and Anakin fight?
I mean, that's where the money is in this film. Like that whole sequence is incredible on Mustafar. It's so good, that fight. Like that is, I will say this as well. We'll talk about Hayden Christensen as well. He is a lot better in this film. A lot better in episode 3 than he was in episode 2. Again, he had the opportunity to grow into the character. And I think he represented it fine. I think, given the stuff that he was given, and the time that he was given, it was clear that they had a lot of focus on the lightsaber fights because they wanted to make that fight properly awesome. Because, as you said earlier on, it's the peak of the Jedi Order. They're supposed to be badasses. They're supposed to be, incredible. I think that fight is excellent. I really do.
The first time I saw it, I felt it was over rehearsed. But the second time, I appreciated like the speed. The whole idea is that they're supposed to predict one's movements and such.
Yeah, especially as that is them doing that as well. That's not sped up. That is them properly doing it. Like it's crazy when you see the behind the scenes thing. So there's a part where they're, as you said, the idea is that they can, through the Force, they can kind of predict where their opponent is going to strike and counter. And there's a bit where they're both so in tune with each other that they kind of cancel each other out, and that their lightsaber movement is so frenetic and mad that they can't hit each other. And in order to control their own lightsabers, they're just kind of like flinging it around each other. Like that is them doing that. Like that's not CGI. That's not like just in part. That's them literally moving those sticks around each other and not hitting themselves. And like at that speed, it's incredible. Like there was a Graham Norton, Ewan McGregor was on a Graham Norton show, like a couple of years ago now, and he was talking about one of his other films, and Graham Norton pulled out a lightsaber to say, can you still go? Can you still do it? And he was properly like doing it. Like once you've got it, you don't lose that, man. And it was just mad. I think Daisy Ridley's done the same thing recently on like interviews and stuff, where she obviously has trained in lightsaber combat and that sort of things, and she can do it as well. It's fantastic. It's so good. I would say, going back to the tier list, episode 3 is very easily, in my opinion, the best of the prequel trilogy. Very easily. The prequel trilogy never hit the heady heights of the original trilogy. I personally, and I don't know about you, I would put this as a B. I would put it on the same level as Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I like everything else around it, like the drama, again, the score, because you have to admit the score, especially in that final sequence, is incredible. Even the moment where Anakin goes to what's the name of the planet? It's not Mustafar.
Yeah, it is the lava planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Mustafar.
So when he takes out the heads of the
Separatist army.
The Separatist army, thank you. And there's a moment where he glimpses over to the sort of walkway, almost like he knows that the fight will happen eventually, like him and Obi-Wan. Little moments like that are amazing.
I've just remembered there are two more parts about this film I absolutely hate, which both come right at the end. First of all, no, hate that. Hate it. I like the idea that it's literally the voiceover of James Earl Jones doing that. Yeah. Otherwise, I like everything else in there. Like the fact that his force power is so strong, he's crushing everything in that room. That's great. The no, I could do without. That the other part of that film I hate is Padme's dying because love. What is that?
Love hurts too much.
She's given up hope. What? You are literally having 2 kids with the man that you loved, and you're dying because there's nothing wrong, by the way. There's no, it's like they make a very established point to say there's nothing wrong with her. She's just giving up. I'm like, yeah, that's what heroes do. They have 2 kids and then they give up.
considering she never gave up for the Senate.
Yeah, exactly. She loved democracy more than her own children. Yes, that was, those end bits were not great, but the transformation of Anakin into Vader is quite horrific, though, which it should be. So that was very good. I do like how cold and robotic that was. That transformation, it was basically make him into a machine.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I like episode 3 a lot. I know there's a lot we're skipping out on, guys, but we're trying to get through this so you're not here for the next 5 hours. So we'll move through. We'll move on. I believe, wasn't the next one episode 7? Am I right in that?
I would assume that you are correct.
Yeah. So Star Wars episode 7, A New Hope again.
Force Awakens.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, The Force Awakens. So Zane, you want to take over on this one?
Sure. Yeah. This one brings, I guess it's fair to say, a majority of the gang back together. So you are introduced to a new generation of heroes with Rey. Never forget Rey because she is Bae. You've also got the introduction of Finn, which was really interesting. This whole concept of a stormtrooper turning.
Yeah, it was interesting at first, wasn't it?
You've also got the introduction of Kylo Ren and Poe. Poe, the greatest pilot we never saw until we saw.
We never saw until we saw. Yes, correct.
Yeah, BB-8. We got to see BB-8. Who could forget?
Yeah, BB-8 was great. BB-8 is great. Poe Dameron, yes, the greatest starfighter pilot that never flew a starfighter. All right. Well, okay. So, oh God. So, a couple of interesting bits about this. So obviously, yes, it was the return of all the original cast from the original trilogy. So Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, and Carrie Fisher are all in this. It was the reintroduction of an empire against the Republic. J.J. Abrams directed this one, brought it back from the dead. This is the first Star Wars film post Disney buying the rights to Star Wars. So this was the first Disney-made Star Wars movie. A little bit behind the scenes that you guys may not know, and I don't know if you know this or not, Zane, but the part of Rey that Daisy Ridley won, it was a very close call, and Jessica Henwick almost got it.
No way.
So Jessica Henwick, for those of you who don't know, she recently played Bugs in Matrix Resurrections. She was also, probably more famously to us, Colleen Wing in Iron Fist. But yeah, it was apparently a very close call. She was almost cast, and she couldn't do it for whatever reason. So Daisy Ridley took over. I love Daisy Ridley. I think she's amazing. I really do. 6 Degrees of Separation. One of my good friends, his cousin is her best friend.
Oh, wow.
There you go. So
is that you saying that one day we could probably get Daisy Ridley on the show?
I'm saying it's confirmed. She's coming on, and no. I would severely doubt that. Yeah, one day when we're big enough to actually do her a favor. Yeah, sure, she'll come on one day, I'm sure. But yeah, so this, I mean, going into A Force Awakens, I think it had a lot riding on it, in the sense that we hadn't seen a Star Wars movie for, when did this come out? It came out in 2014? No, it was later than that. I think I was back in the UK from living abroad from then. So hang on one second. Let's have a look. Force Awakens.
I know. I'm pretty sure I was still 2015.
2015. So that was 10 years after Episode 3.
I was a year out.
No, you weren't. You were almost bang on the money. Go on. What were you going to say then? I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No. I was just thinking, like, I'm pretty sure Star Wars Episode 3 came out when I was like in sixth form or towards the end of school, sort of thing. So
Yeah,
late 2000s.
Episode 2 came out when I was in sixth form, and then
Yeah.
episode 5 came out in 2000. Episode 3 came out in 2005. Numbers. So let's go through some of the positives on this. The cast listing is fantastic. All of the people who were cast in this, you can tell they love Star Wars and they genuinely cared a lot about this film, and they cared a lot about their roles. Particular standouts: Daisy Ridley is phenomenal as Rey. Adam Driver is brilliant as Kylo Ren, aka Ben Solo. He's fantastic. John Boyega. Do you want me to tell my famous story about John Boyega that I've told quite a lot, but is hilarious?
I don't think I've heard it.
Okay, so I'll tell you the story. So I was once on holiday in Ireland with my wife, and we'd done a round tour of Ireland, and I was coming back, and we were catching our flight at the airport, and our flight was delayed, so they couldn't board us on the plane. So we were all hanging around in the waiting room, and there was a guy in the waiting room who was talking on his mobile phone. Now, this guy was very clearly talking about a movie, and he was saying, "Well, all right, fine. I mean, if we've got to do it that way, that's fine. The production costs are going to be ridiculous, and we'll have to redo the props and the set dressing and everything. But I mean, if that's just the way it's got to be, that's just the way it's got to be." And then like there was just silence for a while. So I was kind of like, "Ooh, movie man, I'm going to listen to this." And he was like, "Well, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I don't know why we have to do. I mean, what's the point?" "Oh, is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying? Okay, fine. Well, I guess what you're saying is basically that John Boyega is just a massive pain in the ass." Now, I have no context for what film this was or anything else, but the guy said it so loudly in the airport that about 15 people turned around and just looked at him. And so apparently, according to this man in this airport in Ireland, John Boyega, ladies and gentlemen, is a massive pain in the ass.
Wow.
So yes, I do wonder if it was to do with the Star Wars film, because that was before episode 9 had come out, and I wonder if they were filming at Pinewood, so
yeah,
he might well have been talking about that.
I'm pretty sure Rise of Skywalker was filmed in Ireland, like especially for Luke's private island.
Oh right, yeah, that would have been 8 then, because that was Luke is in 8, he's not in 9.
I get those last two mixed up. Rise of Skywalker and then Last Jedi. Last Jedi,
yeah. So anyway, regardless, I just like that story. I really do. Every time I hear about John Boyega being cast, I just one of a guy Rinsler, who's been a host on the podcast before, I always say to him, "Well, you do know that basically John Boyega is a massive pain in the ass." So yeah. I think the main problem that a lot of people have with Force Awakens is that it's essentially a New Hope, just rehashed. I think that it rides a lot on its nostalgia, because it was nice to see a grown-up Star Wars again, kind of in line with Episode 4. It is basically the same kind of story over again. Harrison Ford finally gets his dream and gets Han Solo murdered by Ben. I got to be honest with you. I mean, I'll try not to go into too much detail, because I don't, I know you wanted to make it snappy, and I've probably talked too much, Zane, so I apologize. But like the original, I wanted 7, 8, and 9 to be very different. And if you read the legacy books of Star Wars before Disney bought them, 7, 8, and 9, the stories that are after Return of the Jedi are very different. I think I've spoken about it a bit before on the podcast, but in the original idea behind the story was obviously Han and Leia have kids, but instead of just having the one kid, they have 2, and they're twins, Jason and Jaina. And Luke marries the right hand of the Emperor, Mara Jade, who was sent to kill him, but then can't kill him and falls in love with him. And they have a child, Ben Skywalker. Ben.
Yeah,
exactly. And in the extended versions of the stories, in the legacy versions, it's basically Jaina and Jason, their story to becoming Jedi, as well as Ben. And then Jason is basically Ben Solo in Force Awakens. Jason turns to the dark side, and then Jaina is good, and she has to take down her own brother. And Jason, his actions result in Ben dying. And it's fascinating what they do with it after the fact. You know, I think I've talked about it before, where it's like the Emperor was actually right in what he was doing. Because there's this invasion force called the Yuuzhan Vong, who are coming from the outskirts, the Dark Rim, and they, you know, they basically are this organic, like, alien race that take things over, and they terraform planets and make more of themselves that way by terraforming these planets. So the idea was that the Emperor made the Death Star as a planet killer, so that if they did that, he would instantly be able to wipe out these terraformed planets. And that's why he built up such an increased military presence, because he knew what was coming. So it kind of paints the Emperor in a different light, in the sense of, like, yes, he was a very bad person and a very bad man, but his motivations might not have been as simple as you thought, of like just universal conquering
power.
Exactly. But they didn't go with that. They decided the best thing to do would be to kind of rehash A New Hope, which is fine. You know, it's fun, this film. I will say Force Awakens is fun. You know, it's a fun romp. It's great to kind of watch, and just to kind of sit through and be like, oh, this is cool, man. It's like new people, but it like reimagines things as well from the old days. It's good. It's a good film. You know, it's not the best Star Wars film ever. You know, it's certainly not the best, but it's good. I like it. One really cool.
Oh yeah.
No, go on. You go.
I was going to say, how good would you say is in comparison to the others?
It's a B. It's a B. Yeah. Because what we're going to talk about next is going to be an A, so you can't put it on the same level as that.
Quite divisive though. An A. I know not all fans would agree to you there.
You've got them the wrong way around. That's why.
Oh, which one?
Rogue One is next.
Oh, right. I see.
That's why I'm saying that's going to be an A.
Okay.
But we will talk about Last Jedi as well. But yeah, the one cool thing I wanted to point out. Actually, I'll point that out in Last Jedi because it's more about race training. So Rogue One, man, I did not expect this film to be good at all.
Really?
Well, behind the scenes, there'd been a lot of conversations about the fact that, like, it had tons of reshoots. Apparently, the filming for it had not gone well. There was a lot of behind the scenes turmoil and a lot of problems with it. So when you hear things like that, I immediately think of films like Josh Trank's Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And we all know how that turned out. So my expectations for this one were probably not high. I think it's safe to say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was not anticipating much. I was very pleasantly surprised with this one. So this one takes place between episode 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Well, you go for it, Zane. Go on. Tell us about Rogue One. Go on.
If memory serves me correctly, this is the story, because with A New Hope, it's about the it is about the plans, the blueprints, not the blueprints as such. I'm trying to think the correct term they use.
Blueprints. You're right. It is blueprints.
It is blueprints.
Yeah.
It's about the blueprints and the schematics for the Death Star. And this movie is about how
first Death Star.
The first Death Star. And it's about how these group of individuals come together, in a sense, kind of create their own. I think the rebels already exist at this point, because you've got the character played by Forrest Whitaker.
Saul Guerrero.
Saul, that's correct. So yeah, with this movie, it's about them getting the Death Star blueprints and what starts Leia's journey in episode 4, which is fantastic. So it's kind of like a ragtag team who steal the blueprints and smuggle them. And I guess it's kind of like a heist movie to an extent.
Yeah. So it's effectively that is you're right. That is what it is. It's a heist movie, really. So it's kind of, this is almost like Star Wars does Ocean's 11 in a weird kind of way. Jyn Erso and Cassian, what's his name? Cassian Andor is they're the two main peeps. And it's got old Ben Mendelsohn in this as well. Old Mendo, the famous Skrull, who is his name?
He is.
Orson Krennic? I can't remember what Commander Krennic or whatever his name is. There's a load of things about this that are really good. You've mentioned Saw Gerrera. He's really good. Like, Forrest Whitaker seems to just get more and more crazy in every role I've seen him in. Like, he's clearly just like gotten to the point now where he's just like, I know what I'm good at. I'm good at playing insane people on screen, so that's what I'm gonna play. But this is a lawyer drama. We don't need crazy. I'm gonna play it crazy.
An idealistic cuckoo.
Idealistic cuckoo, yeah. But yes, it's who else is in this? Donnie Yen is in this. I can't remember the character's name, but he's a blind fighter.
Sensitive, maybe, because he talks.
He is force sensitive. Yes. Yeah. It's an example of somebody who's force sensitive without being a Jedi, which is something they don't really explore until you get to Last Jedi, and then we'll talk about that when we get to that. Oh God. Sorry.
First Star Wars movie with no Jedi is another thing, I guess.
Yes. I mean, A New Hope is. I mean, well, yeah, you could technically argue that was Obi-Wan's not really a Jedi anymore by the time Episode 4 rolls around. So, are there really Jedi in Episode 4? I guess so, technically. But yes, on a point of independence, you are correct, unless you count Vader.
Yeah.
But K2SO was probably one of the standouts of this. The droid, played by Alan Tudyk, the big Imperial robot droid. I guess it's a prison droid or something like that that's repurposed. He was really good in this. I think one of the most famous parts of this was the decision to use Peter Cushing again. So they brought Peter Cushing back in, and it was a completely CGI performance. So they took an actor.
As Grand.
As Grand Moff Tarkin.
Yeah, Tarkin. Sorry, yeah.
Yes, Grand Admiral Tarkin. I think it was. I'm not 100% sure. It might have been Moff. No, it was Moff Tarkin, wasn't it? It was Moff Tarkin. So they took his. They did a fully CGI recreation of Peter Cushing.
Like a deep, is it deep face?
Like a deep fake. Yes, like a deep fake. Exactly. Yes. So that was very controversial at the time, but I believe they did have the permission of the family to do it. This is it's a really nice expansion of the Star Wars universe. This, and the thing that I really liked about this film as well is it didn't. We'll talk about this coming up, but you didn't have to have Skywalker or Palpatine blood in order to be a hero in the Star Wars universe. So the standout bits for this are, well, the whole film's really good, to be fair. Like, it is very, like, even when they go to the prison planet as well, and they're trying to break in and kind of get the plans. And Mads Mikkelsen is in this as well, as the guy who designed the Death Star. But so the whole it's just really cool seeing like the underground of Star Wars, because it kind of felt dirty, this film. Like, it felt like a dirty, gritty, grimy Star Wars. The whole fight sequence at the end on the planet is awesome. Like, that whole bit is great. The fact that they die, like the whole team dies at the end. And they all get Death Starred. is cool. I mean, easily the standout of this film is the ending with Vader, where we see him go full chop and ease on some rebel troopers, as they're making their escape with the plans, and you just see how much of a badass Darth Vader is when he just systematically kills everyone in that corridor, and it's amazing. And then it literally hits straight into episode 4. So yeah, it's an A. It deserves an A. If you haven't seen this film, guys, go and watch it. It's great.
Out of all of them, it's probably the one I haven't watched the most, which is a shame, because I should really take time to watch it back, I think. Especially now it's on Disney Plus. I've got no excuse.
The one after the next one is the one I've watched the least. I've only watched this once. But yes, anyway. Was Last Jedi before Solo? Solo was 2018.
Yeah.
When was Last Jedi? 2017. Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. So Last Jedi is next. I'm going to be honest with you on this one, Zane.
Yeah.
I watched this at the cinema and I hated it. Okay. Then I watched it again as part of when Star Wars Episode 9 came out as a triple billing with 7, 8, and 9. Actually didn't hate it.
Wow.
It was much better the second time I watched it.
I had a reverse.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I liked it the first time round for different reasons, but I'll go into that. But the more I watch it, the more, I guess, the more time I see it, the more I don't like it.
Well, let's go. Like you go for it then. So this was Rian Johnson famously taking over. He directed things like Brick and Looper.
Oh, Looper.
Yeah, he directed Looper.
Okay, interesting.
And also Knives Out. He did after this, but yes.
Yeah.
Go for it. Tell us what you think of Last Jedi then.
So the first time round I watched this, I think it really kind of threw off all sort of expectations. Like, of course, famously, Luke not being the Luke we were expecting to have, which I thought was brave. And I kind of was like, oh, this is an interesting take. I wouldn't mind seeing where it went. So this idea that he was this grizzly old kind of given up, I guess, to an extent, person, like he once had the hero and accolades, but had kind of falling from grace, or the pressures of that, I guess, may have deteriorated him over time. But the first time round, I kind of I thought, oh, that's different, that's new, and especially this whole message that almost like anyone could be a hero, because it ends with the kid picking up the broomstick using the Force and such, being inspired by Luke's story. At the same time, the end sequence where he fights Kylo Ren, where it's kind of like, here's the Luke you were looking for, sort of thing, to the audience. It's almost slightly meta in that way. The second time I watched it, I was kind of like, actually, I feel like you've done Luke dirty. Like, if this is supposed to be the same Luke, the hero, the hope that has been the hope from the get-go, this feels like a really weird U-turn on that character. And I don't think I appreciate what you've done. And then obviously there's everything else, like on that planet with John Boyega and Finn and Rose, I should say, which was just awful.
Yeah, I mean, you've pretty much summed it up there. So my main issue with this film, still to this day, is the treatment of Luke. I hate it. Like, I hate what he did with Skywalker in this, because Luke Skywalker, for me growing up, he's the symbol of hope. Like, he is the beacon of hope, and no matter how terrible the world is, he will keep going and he will keep striving, because he's Luke Skywalker and he's great, and that's he gives you hope. He's the last Jedi. Like, he's the end, and he's supposed to inspire a whole new generation of Jedi. And then just the idea that, like, he wouldn't like it anymore because Ben got angry. No, that's not cool, man. It's not. That's not him. Like Mark Hamill famously said apparently he famously said to Ryan Johnson or to whoever wrote it. I can't remember whether it was Ryan Johnson who I can't remember who he said it to. I think it was Ryan Johnson, but he famously said to him, I fundamentally disagree with every character choice that you've made for Luke Skywalker in this film.
Wow.
That's the first thing he said to him, apparently. And then they worked it out from there to get somewhere in the middle. So apparently it was worse than this. But that aside, when he finally comes out of his stupor and the end bit where he does fight, I can't remember what planet they're on. I want to say I think it might be Crate. Is it the planet Crate? I can't remember. But anyway, it's the salt flats in at the end, and it's incredible visuals. Like, I will say this. The Last Jedi's visuals are insane because Luke's island that he's on is beautiful. Like, that whole place is beautiful. That whole sequence on the salt flats is amazing as well, with those cool kind of like weird skimmers that go along the salt flats and kick up all the red dust behind them. That's amazing. The bit with the slow chase, it was interesting, to be fair. It was an interesting thing, but where they're running out of fuel and they've got to get the remaining the rebels away from Kylo Ren and the First Order. That's really good. I like that bit. I think it's cool. So those bits I think are really cool. I dislike the bit with Luke. I agree with you. I dislike the bit that nobody likes Casino Planet. Nobody likes it. It's a pointless part of the film. It was clear they were trying to give John Boyega and the lady who plays Rose, who I can't remember the name of now, something to do, because they had no other ideas to what to do with them, which is really disappointing. I hated, these are the bits that also really annoyed me. Captain Phasma, who'd been introduced in the previous film, but oh god, who's she played by? She's played by the lady from Game of Thrones. Oh god, that's gonna drive me crazy. Hold on, let me find out who it is. Gwendolyn Christie, that's it. Played by Gwendolyn Christie, who is unmistakable when you see her because she's like 6'5", she's massive. Her story arc ends like that, and she just gets killed instantly by Finn. Like, she is the modern day Boba Fett. You've built her up to look amazing and really cool, and then you've just killed her instantly. Rubbish, absolutely pointless. Snoke, what the hell was that all about? You just kill him like instantly. What?
Wow. Yeah.
He's supposed to be like the new Palpatine. Little did we know how much he was supposed to be like the new Palpatine. But yeah, he's supposed to be the new Palpatine, and you just kill him instantly. Oh, I will say though, that fight sequence in the throne room where Rey and Ben team up together is incredible. That is really good. Like, that whole fight sequence is awesome.
So good. Like you said, this film does offer some amazing visuals. That fight sequence, the ship going into hyperspace.
Yes.
Incredible.
We finally see what happens if you don't plot a navigation course when it just chops that other spaceship in half. Yes, it's awesome.
I really like the stuff with Rey in terms of there's that sort of pit on the island that kind of calls to her.
Yes. Yeah. Every bloody training course has a dark pit that calls to them, doesn't it? You know, when Luke goes into that cave and kills the clone of himself as Darth Vader, they all got it. What is it? Like a dark side pit that just has to be installed in a Jedi training ground.
Well, it's a way to foreshadow, isn't it? It should be called the foreshadowing pit.
Can you imagine the builder constructing that place? And he's just like, yeah, you got your training droids, you got your books, you got your shelves, you've got your classic Jedi table. What's that? Your dark foreboding pit. I'll be here next Tuesday, love. But you know,
give me a week.
In the meantime, I suggest you use these penguin-like things that are on the island. They'll do just as good for Bowden. So yeah,
weird nuns as well.
Porgs. Oh yeah, I don't know what those were, and the blue milk. So it's more product advertising there, like the razors earlier on in episode 1. Drink blue milk. A really cool bit that not many people notice after the fact was so at the end of episode 7, when Rey is fighting Kylo Ren in the forest, she does a little bit again in this film, but it's not as noticeable. But when she gets, she gets like kind of possessed at the end, and she kind of goes on like a force fueled fight against Kylo Ren, which ends up like kicking his ass kind of thing.
Yeah.
The fighting style that she uses, the way that she does her jabs and stuff like that.
Right.
Canonically in the films, there is only one other person who has ever fought like that, and it is Darth Sidious.
Oh, wow.
So there was kind of foreshadowing of who she was. Right, that's where a lot of the theories came from, was that she's the granddaughter of Palpatine, which turned out to be accurate, because she uses exactly the same fighting style as him, and she's the only other person in Star Wars film lore, like Star Wars iconography, to do that. Nobody else makes those like weird stabbing motions with the lightsaber apart from her and Palpatine. So there you go, guys. Last Jedi, I mean, it's the one thing they really did do at the end of it, which I was very happy with, was that they opened it up to say that anyone can be a Jedi. You don't have to be special. You don't have to be a Skywalker or a Palpatine, or have magic. You can just have magic blood. That's all there is to it. You can be a little sweeping boy and have magic blood. So I really like that, because I want more Jedi. Like, you want to see like your Kyle Katans, you want to see like your Grogu. You want to see Grogu, like you want to see more people like that. And I'm happy that they did that at the end of Last Jedi. I'm not happy what they did in Rise of Skywalker to kind of pull it back in, but we'll get to that. So I think you and I are both, it's funny, we've both flipped spectrums on this, where it's like you started off liking it and I started off hating it, and now I don't mind it and you don't like it. So I think with that in mind, it's probably going to have to be a B again, because we don't love it and we don't hate it. It's Marmite. You know what I mean? Like, you might love it, you might hate it.
It's interesting, though.
It's better than episode 1 and 2.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Like, is it? Is it better than Force Awakens?
I don't think so. Also, look at them differently. Force Awakens is a fun romp. But what actually is there to it that isn't in episode 4?
Yeah, fair.
I mean, So, Solo.
Oh God, can I just put it into D?
Can you remind me what happens in it? Because I can't remember anything about it apart from the fact that he's named after a gun.
He starts off on the streets. He's in love with Khaleesi. She betrays him because you should never fall in love. She betrays him with Paul Bettany.
Do you want me to? I forgot Paul Bettany was in this. I completely forgot he was in this. Okay. There's two parts about this that are actually any good that I can remember.
Yeah.
And one of them I've just forgotten in the sentence that I was just talking to you about.
Is it the Kessel Run?
No, but that's close. What's his bloody name? Donald Glover is absolutely perfect as young Lando Calrissian. Absolutely perfect. And because of him, this movie is watchable.
Yeah.
I think that oh God, what's his name? Alden Ehrenreich, is that how you say his name? Eidenreich or whatever his name. The Han Solo replacement. I think he does a good job, considering he's got huge shoes to fill and was probably never going to fill them. Yeah. I need to rewatch this one back. I need to watch it back again and see what I think of it. There's two parts I remember about it. There's Donald Glover being amazing at the gambling table, and then the bit when they're trying to escape from that weird kind of like space squid thing, because they've flown into something with the Millennium Falcon. I can't remember what it is.
I don't remember that. But okay.
They have to eject the middle part of the Falcon, which is why it's got that weird gap.
Yeah, because it's the cargo bit.
Yes, that bit. They have to eject it because of that squid thing. That, and I obviously remember the ending where Darth Maul is revealed to be still alive and responsible for the underworld. With his big robot metal legs. He's got little metal legs now. He's got little metal legs, just like in the Clone Wars. I love Darth Maul as a character. He's fantastic. And the cinema versions of him, they did him dirty. He doesn't get enough screen time. But yes, there's not much redeeming features about Solo. Yeah, put it as a D.
He's such a whiny Han Solo as well.
He is a whiny Han Solo, yeah.
So whiny.
So, this is it. The end of the Skywalker saga. Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. What is this film, Zane?
So, some good bits. I like the conversation bits with Rey and Kylo in this kind of weird, again, I guess it's almost like a new power where they can almost, certain things become tangible during their sort of...
They're force bonded.
Yeah.
No, they are. That's what it's called. It's a force bond. Yeah. It's it's part of Star Wars lore. It's normally between Padawans and their masters. They normally have this intense bond that they can kind of feel each other. That's why when because all Jedi are supposed to be linked together like through the Force.
Yeah.
That's why when another Jedi dies, they can if they're bonded, the other Jedi can feel it.
A bit like Yoda felt Order 66.
Well, that's because there were thousands of Jedi dying at once. Yes, because obviously Obi-Wan felt when that entire planet got destroyed by the Empire. Remember in Episode 4?
Yeah.
So if it's big shifts in the Force, then they can all feel it. But like a special bond, they can they do a really good job of exploring that in Star Wars, in the Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic. In the second one, it's all about Force bonds and masters feeling their apprentices dying and stuff like that. And there's a lot of lore about it in there. So that it is an established thing in the universe that there are Force bonds. It's a weird situation because it's like it only happens after. It seems like it only happens after The Force Awakens when they have that bond. Presumably because it's just a really traumatic moment that like fuses them together with the Force, but it's also because they're apparently in love with each other, which comes out during this. I mean, obviously Carrie Fisher died so the way that the 7, 8, 9 was originally set up was that 7 was going to be Han Solo's movie. 8 was going to be Skywalker's movie, and then 9 was going to be Leia, and it was going to be focused on all three of them, like separately, individually. And then obviously Carrie Fisher died, so they couldn't really do as much with Leia as they wanted to, I guess. Because Leia was Force sensitive. It's interesting because in the extended legacy version, she becomes a Jedi as well. And I think she becomes like a Jedi Guardian or a Jedi Sentinel or something like that, but she has a yellow lightsaber.
Yellow lightsaber,
yeah. So I was kind of disappointed that she didn't become
Force. Oh, what's it called? Star Wars Force Unleashed.
Oh yeah, the alternative ending thing.
Yeah, in one of the DLCs.
Great game. The first Force Unleashed is fantastic. That's a great game, and it was canon as well. That is apparently how the Rebels was created. That's the idea behind it. Whether it still is or not now that Disney bought it, but that's tangent time. Let's not get into that. But anyway, I like the idea that Leia finished Rey's training. It was a nice kind of thing to do after Luke sacrifices himself at the end of 8. What can you say about this one? I
don't like the use of the Wayfinder.
It's just there's a lot. Yeah, it should be holocron. I agree with you. You shouldn't have used Palpatine again. Why? Why bring back Palpatine? It wasn't needed. It wasn't needed. If you either go full in, or, you go balls to the wall with Ben, or Snoke is something else. I don't know why they didn't do Darth Plagueis. I don't know why they didn't do that. It was screaming for it. Darth Plagueis. So for those of you who are not in the know, Darth Plagueis is the guy who trained Darth Sidious. So he is the Sith Lord before Palpatine. He's the Sith Lord that trained Palpatine, that got him to where he was at. And he was a badass. Darth Plagueis is amazing. There's an entire book about him, which is a fascinating read and is excellent, and basically charts all of how he dies and like all of his power before he died and how Sidious takes it over and that kind of thing. But it would have been so good if you'd have just had him being the one controlling everything in the background, and he just waited until Sidious was gone to actually reveal himself as the true Sith. And if those clones were actually, because like Snoke's clone, like what? It was just Palpatine just like pissing around and sending out loads of clones all over the place. Was that worse? Who cares? It would have been so much better if it was just clones of Plagueis who had learned how to put himself in other bodies. That would have been so much better. But it wasn't. It was Sidious who announced that he was back to the whole of the Fortnite universe. Famously, do you remember that?
No.
There is a Force message that there's an Imperial message that goes out at the beginning of this, where it's in the text that scrolls to saying Palpatine is back. The Emperor has returned. He has sent his message throughout the universe. That message, I am not making this up, guys. Feel free to go and have a look. That message was broadcast on Fortnite.
Oh, wow.
The popular game Fortnite. That is where that amazing Imperial message was displayed. I think it was also on YouTube as well, but let's not go into the rest of that. Anyway, so I love that. I love that it was a kid's game that basically displayed the Emperor's message. There's doing fan service well, and there's doing fan service badly, and I feel like this film was just out of control. We've had a negative reaction with The Last Jedi. We need to just bring everything back together. This is like Snyder Cut, but like poo Snyder Cut. It's just not good, man. It's just not well done. Like there's some things about it that are really good and really funny. Babu Frick is hilarious. Like he's really funny. The little guy, the little engineer is really good. BB-8 has like it just. There's nothing for BB-8 in this. There's nothing for R2 in this. There's nothing for anyone in this, really.
To the point, there's like a new BB-8 in this.
Yeah, exactly.
Droid version.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the evil BB-8. I forgot about him. It just feels very thrown together, and very clearly they've pressed an emergency button, which is, oh God, we've got to go back to basics. We've got to go back to what people loved, and what people loved was nostalgia. So let's bring back Harrison Ford again. Let's bring back the Emperor. Let's bring back. Sorry,
the Death Star. The Death Star's in.
Is it? No.
Yeah, because it's crashed in an ocean.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Is it the Death Star that's crashed, or is it? No, it's not the Death Star. It's the. Oh no, you're right. It is the Death Star. It is the Death Star. Yeah, you're right. It is. They do. They go. Oh my God, I forgot about that. Jeez. Okay. Yes. Yeah. They bring back the Death Star. They bring back the entire Imperial fleet that apparently has been waiting patiently on a planet of lightning. And then there's just like it's just weird. Like there's all these like there's all these Sith followers and stuff, and the Emperor's like strapped into this giant machine, and like it's fine, I get it. They're kind of basing it on a series of books called Dark Empire, where it was Palpatine had learned how to clone himself, and then he had a Force ghost that was inhabiting the bodies of these clones. But the problem was, because he's so powerful with the dark side and imbued with dark energy, he was burning through the clones. So in Dark Empire, the idea was that he had to take over Luke Skywalker because it was the only vessel that was strong enough to withstand the power of what he had. And that was the whole motivation behind it, which is kind of what they did here, except Rey is obviously his lineage. It's his grandchild. I am glad that Rey turned out to be a Palpatine instead of a Skywalker, because that was the one thing I was really scared of going into it. I was like, she really needs to not be a Skywalker. The only other thing that I would have been kind of okay with is if she was Obi-Wan's kid. I thought it would be very. I would have wanted her to be a Kenobi instead of it, because I that would have been as far as things coming full circle. I thought it would have been a lovely. It would have been a lovely like little closed circle of like, you know, Luke and Anakin. Obi-Wan and Anakin. You know, then Obi-Wan trains Luke, and then Luke trains the child of Kenobi, and then it would have been really nice.
Just to expand on that a little bit as well, knowing in the Clone Wars series, Obi-Wan fell in love with, I can't remember her name, but she was from Mandalore, and he had like this whole romantic sort of, and there's this whole thing like, if she had told him that she loved him, he would have left the Order, and it's kind of like, oh man. But I know in the series,
Satine, that was it. Satine Kryza, I can never say the surname.
Yeah, but I know before the end of the series, sadly, she perishes.
Yes,
which means like his one true love is gone. But the whole idea that Obi-Wan did have a love, maybe he'd find love again as on Tatooine, maybe. But yeah,
I dislike. So as far as like Disney and buying the rights and stuff like that, I really dislike what they do with the attachments thing with the Jedi. It annoys me a lot, because the idea was that post Imperial rule, all of the Jedi records were destroyed. So it was very hard to get you. The reason why Luke had such a hard time rebuilding the Jedi Academy was that there was nothing left, because the Empire had burned every Jedi relic and destroyed everything that was the Jedi. And I dislike the whole point of why they have children in the new, because obviously Leia's a Jedi, Luke's a Jedi, but they both fall in love and they get married. And the reason was because they didn't know that it was technically forbidden in the Jedi teachings to gain attachments and love. And the argument with this film even as well, is that love does not necessarily cause you to turn to the dark side. It can make you more powerful. It can even have redeeming properties, a la Ben Solo, who falls in love with Rey and has a very point. I will say this, right? So this film does a lot of things wrong. The Ben Solo arc of redemption is fantastic, and I loved seeing Adam Driver playing Ben Solo as I imagine Ben Solo was before he turned to the dark side. You know, the bit when he's redeemed, the bit with him and Harrison Ford, even though it's Harrison Ford's ghost, is it's really beautiful. Like, it's really nice, and like they're so good. Like, Harrison Ford and Adam Driver are such good actors, and they make you feel so like, oh, like that's really nice. Like, it's just really like, it's just great. That's all awesome. The bit when Ben comes down and like he has to face the Knights of Ren. By the way, they were disappointing. But like he's just cracking his neck and stuff, and I'm just like, that is like, that whole fight sequence as well when he kills the Knights of Ren is great. That whole bit is really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just really. I think the main problem I have with this film is it's just meh. You know what I mean? It's like, for the end of the entire Skywalker saga, you don't really want it to be a meh, you know? And it's quite clearly just a reactionary thing to like fan thing. We finally see Poe Dameron as well being an actual good starfighter. Like, he you know, I will say this, that is badass when he takes on an Imperial destroyer with just an X-wing right at the beginning.
Yeah, that's great.
That bit's great. So there's a lot of little bits in it that's really good. I don't think this is I personally don't think this is as bad as episode 2 and Solo. But there's no way it's better than episode 1.
No.
So I would personally put this as a C.
Yeah.
And again, it's just a shame that it went out on a bit of a whimper, really, you know. And the one thing that I will say, and you know, Disney, I know you're listening. Stop making it Skywalkers and Palpatines and special bloodlines can only be Jedi. Stop. It's rubbish. It's absolutely rubbish. Like, it can be anyone, you know. It can be anyone. And Also, as a special request, Disney, like Mandalorian era is fine, but please be done with this time frame. Please be done with it for a while. I don't want to see any more shows set during the Clone Wars. I don't want to see any more shows set like between 6 and 7. I don't want any more. I'm done. I'm done with this period of time. Go back to the old Republic. I want to see Revan. I want to see Darth Revan. I want to see Darth Bane. I want to see the origins of the Sith. Those are genuinely awesome stories. I know there's going to be like a Knights of the Old Republic TV show, which I'm excited for. That's going to be great, and I'm excited to see that. But like, do you know what I mean, Zane? Just go back in time because there's so much good stuff.
Grey Jedis, like you said, Sentry Jedis, and all sorts. There's so much lore there that's still untapped. So yeah, I really agree with you there. I guess,
man, explore the rule of 2. Like,
yeah,
nobody understands. Like, honestly, to a person on the street, nobody will get why there's only 2 Sith. Why are there only 2 Sith, Zane?
Because that's the rule by Bane. Was it Bane who gave that rule?
Exactly. But why is that? Why should there only be? Why is there only 2?
I can't remember. Isn't it something to do with like betrayal or something?
So, but like, yeah, I'll give you the very, very, very quick footnotes. There were thousands of Sith. There was a Sith army. There were loads of lightsaber wielding Sith and blah 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 blah. And then Bane came along and said, the reason why we never win against the Jedi is because we always fight amongst ourselves. Because the whole idea behind the Sith mantra is gain power no matter what. So he summarized that the best way of getting power is to consolidate it into one being. And that one being will have all of the dark side energy and be the most powerful Sith Lord in the universe. However, the Sith Lords and the Sith are nothing if they don't have someone to pass it on to. So there can only be 2. There could only be one master and one apprentice. And the apprentice must one day challenge the master. And if they can't kill the master, they're not worthy to be the Sith anyway. So they'll just find a new apprentice and move on. And that's why there's the rule of 2. And that rule of 2 was started in like 1,000 years before episode 1. And that rule of 2 is what eventually leads to Darth Sidious being able to finally destroy the entire Jedi Order. And nobody knows who Darth Bane is. And he is a absolute badass. And those books are incredible. And I want to see it on screen. I really badly want to. I want to see him with his horrible obelisk armor, where he's got these horrible creatures that are in, like, they can't be destroyed by lightsabers, but they just cover his body and suck his blood. It's horrible, but it's amazing.
Here's a question for you. On Star Wars Day, aka May the 4th,
Yars.
What movies do you watch?
What movies do I watch?
Mm.
This is going to surprise you. It's normally, well, the first one won't surprise you. It's normally Empire Strikes Back or Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
I really like Revenge of the Sith. I really do. I can see why it's not, I can objectively see why people don't like it, and it is a bit all over the place. But it's Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, man. It does it for me every time. I love it. I'm a big McGregor on. What about you? Go on. What's yours?
I think I swap it out every year. I here's the crazy thing. I always watch either the prequels or the OG trilogy. I never make it to the Disney trilogy.
Really?
There's just not enough hours.
The same. No, I'm kind of the same though. I know what you mean. I'd watch Rogue One again. I need to watch Rogue One again. But yeah. Well, there we go. This was the longest podcast we've ever done, Zane.
Was it really? Interesting.
I believe so. The Star Wars saga has killed us.
And we thought it'd be the MCU.
Oh my god, yeah, I know. Tell me about it. I mean, the Fox movies were bad enough. All right, let's wrap this up, shall we, Zane? So, guys, do you agree with our opinions on what we ranked as the best Star Wars movies and the worst Star Wars movies? Let us know. Zane, how can they get in touch with us?
You can get in touch with us on Twitter, Instagram. I have the notes
TikTok.
here. You can actually reach out to us on TikTok. yeah, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter. Just search for Undisputed Nerds. I believe it's at Nerds Undisputed, maybe. But yeah, you'll find us there. Don't worry. Links will be in the description.
Just write Undisputed Nerds into the search bar. You'll find us. We're there. You can also get us on YouTube as well if you're not watching us already on YouTube live streaming. But we do live stream pretty much every Friday or sometimes Saturday during the day. Please feel free to give us a like and a subscribe. Drop some comments in if you agreed with us, if you didn't agree with us, if you think we are steaming piles of boo. So you can get me on Instagram at Gentleman the Gamer. I also do a Twitch channel sometimes, which is twitch.tv/Gentleman the Gamer. You can get me in both those locations. Next week, it is the end of Boba Fett. It is the book of Boba Fett, who apparently I've never seen such a weird autobiography that doesn't feature Boba Fett in it. But yes, we will be talking about Boba Fett next week. So join us for our full series recap and review. And
you can also find myself on Twitter and Instagram at Zane_Taicho. And also we've got the Undisputed Anime Podcast, which you can also find on Twitter and your favorite podcast platforms. On Twitter, on YouTube. And
look around Twitter. Who cares about Undisputed Anime? Come on. Jeez, honestly, I'm not on that one. If you like anime, go and listen to it, guys. It is very informative.
I guess a weird tangent. Have you seen Star Wars Vision?
Star Wars Visions?
Yeah.
Well, because it's anime based.
Yeah, because it's anime Star Wars, yeah.
I mean, we'll probably end up talking about that when we inevitably do a tier list of the Star Wars TV series, won't we?
I suppose so. Yeah, let's do that.
There's the hook, guys. There's the hook. If you've stuck with us through this entire tier list in the podcast, thank you very much for listening, guys. We appreciate it. We appreciate all your support. And we will catch up with you next week for Boba. Boba.